by Northern, the family of companies, meeting your needs from asphalt to concrete in Oswego and all of Central New York. This month's production of the Oswego County Legislative Meeting is pleased to welcome, during their grand opening, your new Volney Fulton PNC and Kmart, located in the River Glen Square Mall. Filming of this production by Saved Video, Terry Reynolds, proprietor, Diane Martell Rafferty, second camera assistant. And audio announcement. The following are personal sponsors of this legislative meeting. County legislators Shirley Tabor, Barbara Brown, Clayton Brewer, Bill Buck, Jim McMahon. Other sponsors are Sandy Weston, Thelma Terramino, Larry Raleigh, Cindy Gagne, and Claudia Smart.
One extra everybody's got.
Hanson. Here. Skinner. Edick. Here. Bryant. Here. Brewer. Here. Sahaski. Here. Boynton. Here. Weinhold. Here. Frawley. Here. Johnson. Here. Keeney. Here. Beckwith. Here. McMahon. Here. Murray. Here. Warrendorf. Here. Jarrett. Here. Hall. Sheriff. Here. Shalafu. Here. Ponzi. Here. Chetney. Here. Turner. Present. Walker.
Here.
Bateman.
Here.
Osatek.
Here.
Babcock.
Here.
Brown. Here. Ward.
Here.
Randall. Here. Balcom.
Here.
Reed.
Here.
Chesbro.
Here.
Church.
Here.
Buck.
Here.
Tabor. Here. Russell.
Here.
I'll ask Legislator Ted Jarrett to lead us in the invocation of Pledge of Allegiance.
Dear Heavenly Father, please bless this fellowship this afternoon as we seek to follow your leadership. In the warm embrace of your presence among us, flow within our hearts forever. And we ask that you continue to walk with us down our separate paths into the opportunities that await us, guiding us with a firm hand, a gentle voice, and a love everlasting. In Jesus' name, amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Is there a motion to accept the minutes of the last meeting? Legislator McMahon?
Mr. Chairman, looking at the minutes, somewhere on page 9, something should appear, but it doesn't. In the last guy, I had asked that Bernie Wolf, being present at that meeting, the Director of Real Property Tax, come before the legislature to give us information on what his office had sent out about the Niagara Mohawks tax shift. At that time, the majority leader noted it wasn't on the agenda and should not be addressed. I voiced objection to the fact that he was there, Bernie was there, and the legislators should have been privy to that information. I did not see that in here. If you can find it somewhere in here, then okay, but it should be added to it.
Make a note of that, Legislator Walker.
I got a correction on page 12, in the top left-hand corner. It says Van Schack. It says on page 11 at the bottom, Legislator Walker indicated Legislator Buck brought up a good point, saying Legislator Shalafo, Legislator Van Schack, and should be Legislator Babcock.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Walker.
Those corrections for some...
No, one more.
One more?
This is just a minor one, but on page 13, we had stated there was $750,000, and down about a third of the way down, since Legislator Tabor asked if we already have 705, and I just wanted to correct it so it matched with the first part.
Should be 750.
Further down the page, same, it's written as 700, needs to be changed also.
Where's this?
Page 13,
Okay. 3/4 of the way down on the same page. Says 700,000.
Should be 750.
So they say.
Mr. Chairman.
Wait a minute. Part of the problem is that the minutes may reflect what actually was said at that meeting, and you're amending it after the fact. I believe it's 700 in the, that was said on the floor. No big deal. Right, one.
Are there any other additions to that? Legislator McMahon.
know there's an awful lot of movement here. I would hope in the future that we could get this with our legislative package instead of just before the meeting. I know some legislators had some time trying to decipher all of this written material. I came in early and it took me a good half hour to go through it. Thank you.
Jim, this past month was really an unusual month. In the first place, the acoustics at the courthouse in Pulaski are not the greatest. So even taking notes, referring to a tape, and actually referring to a video, our poor girl worked on these till 6:15 last night to have them ready for today. It probably will not happen again, and you have been getting them in the past, but this month it was really an impossible thing.
Okay, I understand.
Those corrections, is there someone who will move the minutes?
So moved.
Legislator Walker, is there a second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, minutes are adopted. This time, I would offer the floor to the introduction of visitors, members of the public who wish to speak. Legislator McMahon.
I'd like to introduce a resident of the town of Hastings. And at the present time, she is the Republican committee person in the 5th District in Hastings. And she is presently running for candidate for county clerk on the conservative line. It's Diane Marcel Rafferty. She's back there.
Mr. Chairman, I have several from the town of Allen. The first, Supervisor Mrs. Howard Rose, Charles Councilwoman Claudia Smart, and Colleen Scott.
Is there anyone? Legislator Brown.
From the town of Palermo, head of the Office of Aging, Mary Jean Robbins.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, with a great deal of pleasure, I introduce Kim Bolton. Kim is our new small business agent at Cooperative Extension in Mexico. She is going to be working with the Main Street and Farm Revitalization. I think she's revitalizing the Cooperative Extension. Nice to have you here. Yes, Legislator Weinberg.
I'd like to introduce Ann Margarita Snyder, head of our Chamber of Commerce.
Legislator Bryant.
I'd like to introduce a young lady, a senior from Central Square High School. She's here with a message for us today, Melissa Mexley.
Later. Anyone else? Legislator Brown?
They're coming up later, but Flo Van Gorder and Patty Wilson are both here from my town also.
Supervisor of the town of Valmy, Howard Rose, has permission to address the legislature. Would you like to come up?
I have a prepared statement I'd like to read to the legislature today. When I first spoke before the legislature on the topic of the county's municipal waste incinerator in May of 1989, it was an attempt to inform you of the toxic reality of mass burn incineration. The county's position was that there was no significant impact and that the risks were acceptable. Since that time, 2 states have banned municipal waste incineration, Rhode Island and West Virginia. In July of 1992, the state of Rhode Island proclaimed, due to the myriad of over 400 toxic pollutants, including lead, mercury, dioxin, and acid gases, known to be emitted by solid waste incinerators, the known and unknown threats posed by solid waste incinerators to the health and safety of Rhode Islanders, particularly children, along with the known and unknown threats to the environment, are unacceptable. On April 30th, 1992, Cattaraugus County legislators voted to close down their 9-year-old incinerator, which was designed by the same engineering consultant used by this county, Barton & Judas. And most recently, the 10-year-old Answers plant in Albany was shut down. Our plant is 8 years old. Although the DEC has termed our incinerator ash special waste because of its household content, which allows you to bury it in a sanitary landfill, Bristol Hill. The Seventh Circuit Court of Appeals has ruled that ash from municipal waste incinerators is hazardous waste and should be treated as such. On September 1st of this year, the U.S. EPA ranked the sources of air dioxin emissions entering the environment as number 1, medical waste incinerators, and number 2, municipal waste incinerators. Dioxin and dioxin-like substances represent the most perilous chemical threat to the health and biological integrity of human beings and the environment. The EPA proposes toughening earlier municipal waste incinerator standards, requiring more stringent pollution control equipment, increasing the number of pollutants regulated, and increasing the number of incinerators to be regulated down to those that burn as little as 40 tons per day. Our incinerator burns 200 tons per day. At a February 1994 Association of Towns seminar on municipal waste incinerators, Mr. Tom Allen, Director, Division of Air Resources for the DEC, predicted that the Oswego County incinerator will close because of space limitations in retrofitting the plant to achieve compliance with the new clean air standards. With this in mind, and the undeniable evidence we have today as to the overall higher cost of incineration, environmentally and fiscally, I am here today to ask that you do not waste any more of the taxpayers' money on this ill-advised component of our solid waste system. No risk is acceptable if it's avoidable. I thank you for your time, and I'd like to leave you with a quote from Thomas Jefferson: "The care of life and happiness, and not their destruction, is the first and only legitimate object of good government." I'm going to leave this statement with Mr. Church here, and along with it are some attachments supporting what I said today. Also the overhead used by Mr. Tom Allen at that meeting in New York. And I would hope that you legislators would take a look at this, and if you need any more information, I'd be happy to talk to you about it. And for those who are saying, well, what do we do with this waste? What does he want us to do with it? If you'd like some ideas, I have some experts in the field that don't profit from incineration that would be glad to talk to you about it and give you options and ideas on what we can do in this county to get on the right track. Thank you for your time.
Romney Town Board member Claudia Smart has asked permission to speak to the legislature. Claudia.
Good afternoon. Reading the Post-Standard this week, I came upon a very disturbing article. The government committee is recommending that you consider tacking on a labor charge to your FOIL request fee of 25 cents per page. Problems cited were the cost of the clerical help to do the research that these requests and that it also is a need in the county government right now to control costs. Is the government committee saying that the county is paying overtime to employees to get this ready or hiring extra help? If not, then there's no extra cost. Also, is it not the duty of government to serve the public? I have people come to my office with questions constantly, and if they want to know the details to something, I run them a copy on my copier at no charge. I thought this was part of my job. Also, maybe you are trying to do too much of the work yourselves on the FOIL requests. When I have gone to the DEC and the Office of Economic Development with the state with FOIL requests, their procedure is totally different from yours. You can just pay them 25 cents per page and have them copy everything on a topic, or you can come into the office and they pull all related files and you go through the files yourself and you run the copies that you want yourself on the copier. This not only ties their employees up for just a few minutes to pull the files, but it also helps the public because they charge nothing. Maybe the county should switch to the state system. It's easier and it doesn't make it necessary to be rich to have access to public information. I am going to pass out to all of you the request that Volney passed unanimously at our last meeting. We are very concerned by the high cancer rates in Oswego County and especially in the Fulton-Volney area. There are many possible sources of this problem and if the problems are not identified, then there's never going to be a solution. Related to these concerns is the radioactive sludge issue. We were going through the process and Volney raised many health and safety concerns under seeker, which were never addressed. Then the DEC and the county came to the decision that the county was not an involved agency in the permit process because the sludge was not going to be taken. Of course, we were all overjoyed. Now a disturbing idea is being made public. The DEC is saying PASNY and NIMO don't have to go through the permit process because they have decided that from now on they will always be perfect. They will never make any more mistakes, so there is now not any extremely low-level radioactive sludge. It has now become clean sludge. Give me a break. These are the same people who have made numerous mistakes before and put radioactive sludge that exceeded the guidelines in the dump. Why are they so perfect now? Are we going to use the honor system for public health and safety now? If so, I can save you a lot of money. Sheriff Nellis was criticized by some people in the paper for the size of his budgets. He could slash his budgets, and all he has to do is stop using deputies for traffic control. We could use the same honor system that PASNY and NIMO want. Have everyone in the county agree never to make mistakes driving again. Look at the money we could save. Isn't the honor system wonderful? Please don't let the power companies and the DEC talk you into compromising the health and safety of Oswego County. Any nuke sludge is too much in a sanitary landfill. Don't open the door to problems. For anyone concerned about the cancer risks, there will be an informational meeting at Volney Tuesday, September 27th at 7 o'clock. We'll have Dr. Ernest Sternglass, who's a professor at the Pittsburgh School of Medicine, and Ellen Connett, who's the editor of Work on Waste, who's an expert in the field of incinerators. I hope you can all attend. Thank you.
There was an ad in the Valley News which much alarmed me, put out by the American Cancer Society. It was on the obituary page, August 20th. And it said, Oswego County leads both the state and the nation in certain cancer incident rates. That means there's no worse place to live. And it talked about the fact that our high breast cancer rates are particularly alarming, especially in the Fulton area. So I decided to do some research on breast cancer, and I'd like to read to you an article that I am now sending out to get published. Ionizing radiation, which results from splitting of the atoms. By the way, that's called nuclear emissions. That comes from the 9 Mile nuclear plants. Is the only known environmental cause of breast cancer, which strikes 1 in 8 women. According to a 1990 U.S. National Academy of Sciences report, radiation has long been known to induce breast cancer in women, as first observed in a large-scale study of women exposed to X-rays in the course of treatment for tuberculosis. In his testimony at the August 1st congressional hearing on the high rates of breast cancer in Northeast Ohio, yes, they have a nuclear plant there, Dr. Paul Schulte, Ph.D. of the National Institute for Occupational Safety and Health of the Centers for Disease Control stated, ionizing radiation is an established cause of breast cancer in both animals and humans. Dr. Edward Snodnick, Ph.D., Acting Deputy Director of the National Cancer Institute, warned of the accumulative effects of ionizing radiation and said that even mammograms can actually cause cancer in a small percentage of women, particularly sensitive, especially those under 40. Recent studies of Japanese bomb survivors and research on nuclear power plant workers reveal the carcinogenic properties of ionizing radiation even at low doses. Two world-renowned experts who helped helped develop the atom bomb, Dr. Carl Morgan, Ph.D., and Dr. John Goffman, M.D., Ph.D., have said respectively, low levels of radiation not only cause cancer and genetic defects, but may even be more harmful than high doses per unit of exposure, and there is no safe dose of ionizing radiation. Multiple epidemiological studies now suggest that radioactive releases from nuclear power plants significantly increase the incidence of breast cancer who live within 15 to 30 miles of these facilities. Dr. Ernest J. Sternglass and Dr. Jay Gould have documented an 11% increase in breast cancer within 15 miles of the Brookhaven National Labs on Long Island, a 40-year-old nuclear complex, as compared to the rest of Suffolk County, New York. The likelihood of this occurring by chance is less than 1 in 10,000. A recently published analysis near Oak Ridge, Tennessee, site of one of the oldest U.S. nuclear facilities, states, according to the National Cancer Institute studies, age-adjusted breast cancer mortality rates of white women have increased in counties closest to Oak Ridge by 19.6% since 1950, compared to a 0.7% increase for the U.S. as a whole. The probability of this occurring by chance is less than 1 in 10 million. As Dr. John Goffman recently stated in written testimony, all unnecessary ionizing radiation from birth on should be drastically reduced if anyone is serious about the prevention of breast cancer. I would also like to tell you that they've recently discovered that 18% of the female population lives in counties near nuclear plants, yet 55% of the breast cancer deaths occur in those counties. I don't think we do something weird with our bras in those counties. Now, getting back to the sludge issue, I was at Minetto Town Board this week and I was very disturbed. But I want to tell you that you have to remember, this industry out there is a self-regulated industry. The government doesn't regulate them. The power plants pay the U.S. NRC to watch over them, and they pay their paychecks. They self-report. They do their own testing. It was very disturbing to me when the Valney Town Board wrote a letter to the DEC asking if, in fact, the nuclear plants were probably in violation of the technical specifications of their operating licenses by allowing radioactive particulates to enter into clean areas from contaminated areas. I believe the answer is yes. The other question they asked him is, where do the pipes run from the showers where the workers are hot? They didn't answer back, but about 7 days later in the paper, it was announced that the sludge out there was now clean. Now, I believe that they're in violation, so now we've made the sludge miraculously clean. And Minetto told their citizens that there would be no independent testing because Niagara Mohawk and NIPA told them that it cost too much money. So they're going to take their word. And I suggested to the citizens there that they get a hold of Dr. Ronald Scordato, who's the director of the research center at SUNY Oswego, who 3 years ago, and he doesn't normally do testing of the nuclear industry, but toxic industry, and he evaluated the monitoring done by this industry in this county. And he sent it in to the DOH and the DEC and the PSC and the nuclear plants for their comments. And I think you'd be very shocked. And these are the same people who do faulty testing, who are testing that sludge. And I certainly don't want NIPA paying for any independent testing, because if NIPA pays for it, it's not independent. Thank you.
I believe Charles Smart would like to speak.
I'm Charles Smart. I'm from the town of Valney. I thank you for allowing me to address you. As you all know, industry throughout the county has been petitioning and receiving lower property tax assessments. Niagara Mohawk pays more than 60% of all county taxes. Is that better? Yeah. Thank you. I'll start over. As you all know, industry throughout the county has been petitioning and receiving lower property tax assessments. Niagara Mohawk pays more than 60% of all county taxes. Just a 3% reduction in Niagara Mohawk's assessment in Scriba has caused large county tax increases in other towns due to their equalization rates. In addition to this, industries have cut their workforce or closed their doors. State mandates are forcing increased expenditures at a time when revenues are down. There is no single solution to these problems. Industry is overtaxed. Taxation in Oswego County is among the highest per capita in the state. This has not been felt by the average individual because the burden has been shouldered by our industries, something they are no longer willing or able to do. Many people are looking for an easy fix, a magic spell to make the problem go away. In the coming weeks and months, you will be lobbied hard to impose a county-wide sales tax. Although in time it may come to this, that time is not now. Further reductions in assessments will be asked for and received by our own businesses. The sales tax that will be received is not enough to offset this, and if taken too early, will only cause other necessary spending cuts and measures not to be taken in time. Instead, we should be looking at what advantages we have in Oswego County to attract and hold new businesses. Plentiful water and land available for growth are obvious answers. But the one advantage we possess that exists nowhere else in this state is being overlooked. Rather than rushing to add a 3% county sales tax, we should be promoting the fact that we do not have one. People in other counties are not aware of this. We are located in the center of the state. Oswego County could become a retail mecca, the place to shop. Merchants will flock to the area, as will the shoppers. It is not just the savings that matter. People are tired of paying taxes. The 3% they don't pay and keep for themselves is the 3% that does not go to the government. The resulting commercial influx will help to replace the dwindling property tax from other sources and keep taxes down. At the same time, it will provide jobs in construction, retail, and in service industries. Rather than increasing the tax burden on our citizens, spread the word. We should be pressing our 4% advantage. This is something no one else in this state can do.
Next speaker is Colleen Scott.
Good afternoon, everybody. In his book, All Politics is Local, published by Times Books, shortly before his death, Tip O'Neill listed these rules of the political game. After each quote, I have added my interpretation of one application of the advice that is relevant in Oswego County. Number 1, all politics is local. Never forget while thinking of yourself as a county representative that really every decision you make affects every citizen in the county. The county legislature is not an island. Number 2, show me courage and I'll show you a following. People wonder why some of the elected officials in Volney are so outspoken against annexation and radioactive sewage sludge. It's because the people in the town are behind them. Number 3, tell the truth the first time and you don't have to remember what you said. If all factions of the county government had dealt honestly with Volney in the first place, Volney would have developed their own sewer and water, and there wouldn't be the battle now between Fulton and Volney. Number 4, no chore is too small. The county needs to remember that a FOIA request, no matter how small, if not filled, will reduce the trust of the county by the community. Number 5, remember your friends and who their enemies are too. The county chose to remember their friendship to the city of Fulton, so that when Fulton decided to treat Volney like enemies, the county should have remembered to treat Volney like a friend also. Number 6, you can switch a position, but do it quickly and openly. At first, the legislature was going to take the DEC's opinion as to the safety of radioactive sludge. But then they openly switched to preferring to be more strict than the DEC. Number 7, KISS. Keep it simple, stupid. If you can't understand an issue, follow the money trail of who benefits, and it all becomes clear. Number 8, people like to be asked. Some county officials wonder why they are not trusted. Well, people like to be asked about grant applications, water and sewer lines to be run in their town, and putting parks on top of methane gas and across the road from Superfund sites. Number 9, never lose your idealism. Never forget the reason you were elected to the legislature was to protect the health, welfare, and safety of the county residents. And number 10, never forget whence you came. Don't forget that one day you were just a citizen with your own opinion, just like me. And if you forget where you came from, you'll blink your eyes in November of '95 and you'll be just like me again. Thank you and good afternoon.
This time you have the presentation of petitions, communications, and notices. Legislator McMahon.
I have some information to share with fellow legislators. Back around the first part of this year, I saw an advertisement in the Farm Bureau paper about how Farm Bureau was supporting the horse boarding industry in this state. So I sent for some information and gathered it together and took a look at it and thought it was a good idea. I took that to Rural Resources, and they thought it was a good idea and put a resolution on this floor, and this full legislature supported it. And I want to thank you at this time. I do have a letter from the governor I want to read about that so that you'll know what's taken place so far. Dear Mr. McMahon, on behalf of Governor Como, I acknowledge your letter regarding Senate Bill number 3336-A, which relates to commercial horse boarding operations. I am pleased to inform you that the legislature passed that legislation and the governor recently signed it into law as Chapter 556 of the laws of 1994. Like you, the governor agrees that commercial horse boarding operations are an important and growing part of the state's agricultural economy and thus deserve the benefits and protections of the state's agricultural assessment law. Your interest in writing the governor is appreciated. Peter Siscom, Assistant Counsel to the Governor. And I want to let you know that some of the legislation that we act on does get passed, and our studious efforts to be on top of it has helped to pass this, and I wanted to let you know about it and thank all of you for supporting this issue. Give this for the record. I basically sent this on to sent a letter on to the governor's office with our resolution because I had heard that it had passed both houses of legislature, and I wanted to make sure that he knew that Oswego County did support that, and he has signed it. I want to thank the legislature. Thank you. I got one other thing to bring up. I had a chance to go over and visit the Silk Road and Howard Road area where I guess it's the new Clayton Brewer Memorial Racetrack. And I looked at it from the road and I said, my God, that thing looks pretty big. I'd like to get down there and take a look at it. Of course, you know that I've got a 1-ton truck that's pretty good size, so I drove down in there, threw it in four-wheel drive and got down in there. Well, Jeepers, probably the kid in me came out, and I thought that was fun, so I looked at it. It looked solid enough, so I got on top of it with my truck, and I went around at 50 miles an hour. I just want to note that it has been tested for 1-ton traffic, so if anybody wants to take a look at it, they can, but anything bigger than that, I checked with Clayton to see if it can be used for that.
Thank you for naming the track. I appreciate it, man.
Yeah, I have a couple of things I'd like to point out today. About 6 months ago, George Buddy Broadwell came before the
legislature and was asking for a little help with the old Holiday Harbor. And I'd just like to point out that when I stated that he ran a Class Act, well, if you take a look at First and Bridge Street, it is a Class Act. It's done. It's back on the tax rolls. He employs between 40 to 60 people, and it's just an outstanding job, and it's up and operating again. The other thing I want to bring up is, and I'm referring this to the General Government Committee, I talked to Art Asphalt the other day. It's been brought to my attention that there's a few people that work for the Oswego County, and they're department heads, and they are department heads, they're the top people in those departments. Their ranges are between $30,000 and $40,000. They do not live in Oswego County. And I'd like to, I asked Art Asphalt, and he said there is no policy for living in Oswego County, and I'd like to bring that up to the General Government Committee and have him look at that and report back to us as soon as possible. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, in the June meeting, I asked you to look into a couple of issues. It was a matter of record in the minutes of the June meeting. One was to look into the possibility of a county-sponsored dog and cat shelter. I haven't heard anything about it. You're right. And the second thing was to consult with Mayor Bullard in the city of Fulton on his ideas that was accepted by state government for the possibility of a trauma center at the Miller site. I haven't heard anything about that either, and I talked to him later about that. Yep, it's in the minutes. I checked with Mayor Bullard and nobody's contacted him, so I bring it up again.
Okay. We have a meeting without involvement with the mayor in the near future. We had a little problem with a person couldn't make the meeting we had before, so he knows we're going to meet with him right off here.
But there are some people that, with the dog cat shelter, that got some pretty good ideas. It would not cost the county any money. Because each township and city's got the same problem, you know.
Legislator Tabor.
I have two issues here that I'd like to touch on. There's a lot of rumors going around about the sales tax. I'm sorry, yes, there's a lot of rumors going around about the sales tax and our bringing the sales tax up. I don't have a problem with anything being discussed in caucus, but I do have a problem when a caucus decides to take a vote to make decisions to negotiate with cities before it comes on this floor in front of 36 legislators, not 25. So I'm putting a protest into the fact that this was discussed a week ago in caucus, a straw vote was taken to discuss these issues and negotiate with the two cities. I am as much a legislator as 25 Republicans are. And I would wish that you would remember that in your caucus and bring the important decisions here on the floor in front of 36 legislators and not 25 before making decisions. So that's on that issue. I was at the Public Works meeting this morning and I witnessed something I didn't like, and it involved Mr. Clark. I've been at the Public Works meetings for about 7, 8, 9 weeks now. Out of that time, we've had, I think, 4 executive sessions, and we left the room. During the course of one of those executive sessions, it was discussed about closing the batch plant, and no legislator was notified of this. Now, when I brought it up the next week about the fact that that did not fall within the realm of what an executive session was, I was told by Mr. Asphalt that it could have possibly been because it could have resulted in a lawsuit. Right, Art? Right. Well, if you open up your book, sir, to your right to know, there are specific reasons that you can hold an executive session. And if you turn to page 13, and I know you don't have that right in your hands, but I'm giving you the page number, you said, in case we had a lawsuit. Number D says discussions regarding proposed, pending, or current litigation. Nowhere does it say, well, maybe we'll get sued. So I would appreciate that when you decide on executive sessions, and I'm at a committee or any other legislators at a committee meeting, that you really scrutinize what you're going to put in that executive session. Because we knew nothing about the batch plant until it came out in the newspaper. And I take that as an insult of my time that I devote to going to these meetings. Secondly, this morning as I was there, we had some press there. The press, they asked to go into an executive session about a pending lawsuit. One of the press asked, well, is it she wasn't sure whether that was in this law. And I have to give Mr. Clark credit. Yes, it is. It says pending. But I felt that his sarcastic attitude and his spelling of pending to press was unnecessary. And Mr. Clark is an appointed public official, and he he represents every one of us, every 36 legislators in this room. So I do not like the fact of sarcasm being used to either constituent or press or even to myself as a legislator, because at times Mr. Clark's been a little bit curt with me. I would appreciate that everybody in this room who's an official remembers how you got to be an official. Thank you.
Mr. Crowley, could I have a clarification? I don't understand. If you sit in on a committee meeting, you're a legislator just like everybody else in that meeting, except you aren't a designated member of that committee. Is it wrong that you as a legislator are denied access to a executive session? Because you are still a legislator. And I question the legality, and I'd like a ruling on that occasionally I go to other committee meetings. And I think that if they told me you can't come into an executive session, I think they'd sort of have a little tussle on their hands, because I'm still a legislator. And the business that's going to be discussed in that executive session is as much my business as a legislator as it is an individual that's assigned to that committee. And I'd like to have a ruling on that. I'm not clear. I didn't make what
Shirley's saying I wasn't at the executive session she's talking about anyway. I didn't call for it,
I
right?
don't know. I'm not addressing that. I'm addressing my own.
All I mentioned in the meeting she heard me say is I thought that possibly they felt that it was because it was pending litigation that they went that way. That's the only thing I was saying, okay? But he'll have to make a ruling on that.
I believe the legislature, the legislative committees follow the rule of the legislature, and I think it's up to the legislature who sits in their executive session. So I think the committee should do the same thing, but that's off the top of my head, but I'll check on that and I'll give you a written.
Legally, I'd like to know, can they
I'll give you a written
exclude a legislator from an executive session in a committee meeting? I don't think they can.
I'll give you a written opinion of that.
Don't need
If I could address Mrs. Tabor's comment,
I'd like
please.
to make one quick comment on that. There is a ruling that says if you are going into executive session, that executive session body has the right to allow anyone to sit in there that they choose to vote on, a majority vote on. So if you ask to sit within that session, it needs a majority vote if you're following Robert's rules, or, I'm sorry, Freedom of Information Act. And yes, I'm sorry, but that did bother me this morning. You can address me.
I believe you just stated what I just stated to Mr. Farley, that it's up to the committee to decide who can sit in their executive session. Secondly, the first executive session that you were concerned about with the blacktop plant, was I involved in that meeting?
No, and I didn't say you were.
Yes, you did. You started out by saying I have a problem with what happened this morning with Mr. Clark, and then you started talking about that executive session for the highway committee. Okay, I was not involved in that meeting, right?
Let me clarify.
Okay. Secondly, also, I want to apologize for the sarcasm that I had at that meeting this morning. I was only trying to point out to the lady of the press that it was my understanding that the legislation for open meetings law has the word pending in it, and I requested the chairman of that committee to go into executive session for pending litigation, and I believe I was correct.
You were correct. It was just when you started spelling pending to the press that I thought you were a little bit out of line. We are public officials.
I understand.
Mr. Chairman.
Legislative meeting.
I guess we're kind of in the new business now. I have a couple of questions.
We're on petitions and communication.
Well, this has to do with the committee. But my questions now or one wait until after the business? This is concerning the highway committee. I know Don Murray's here. Our chairman is already here. Okay, I'll ask Blake then. The new park in Valley that apparently the Valley Town Board didn't know anything about.
Pardon me?
The Valley Town Board didn't know anything about the new park going in.
Did they know anything about it?
That's all. I'm just telling what I read in the paper. I just got 4 questions, either to Donnie, who's in the room, or you can answer. Like, number 1 was, who authorized the new park to go in? Was it an ongoing project or something just came up? Number 2, how much did it cost altogether? Number 3, where was the asphalt purchased from, since Northern was right down the road? And number 4, was all the money in the current budget of the highway department?
Yeah, makes no difference. I don't know about the Valley Town Board,
we've worked on a park down there for a total of probably about 20 years since this first came up. We talked about getting some recreation at the airport. And I know that Howard and Bill, I know had some correspondence about a county park, that the county was going to do anything there. And I can't speak for Bill, but I'm pretty sure he told them that we were going to continue to try to work to get something at the airport. We used some before as far as, full youth soccer. Couldn't use the Nestle Park anymore. We built a parking area for them, a place for the refreshment stand so they could have soccer there. Part of the master plan originally at the airport was to have a recreational facility on site.
The current site across the street from the Superfund EPA site, or was it on the other side by the site?
I don't know if there was a spot exactly. Part of it was a whole place to have a walking trail right around the airport, which would be that same site that we're talking about.
Okay.
Was part of that. That's what we've done now. It's going to be able to use for that. There'll be a cross-country ski trail also around that perimeter of the site.
Was the racetrack part in the master plan also?
No, there wasn't. All it was the recreation area is all the master plan. There wasn't anything outlined exactly what was going to be in it.
So who authorized the racetrack addition? Committee?
Well, I think a bunch of people talked about it. The decision, I talked to Clayton some on it, I talked to Ron, they talked about the people that use it around the city of Fulton and the rest of the area. So we just thought it'd be a good thing for the county.
So this came out of the committee?
Yes.
Somebody had to be okay. Committee, okay?
Yes.
Okay. Do you have the total cost?
I can come up with it, I don't know exactly what cost you want. The guys...
With the man hours, the equipment, the asphalt, everything.
All right, I can get those for you.
Okay. And the asphalt was purchased from?
We mix our own.
Your own. Okay. And the money was in the current highway committee budget, or was it?
Yes, we took it out of the existing account. See,
was it in the budget as that project, or was it taken
No,
from?
just the overall construction budget that we have at the airport machinery. Like, we probably would have done this 2 or 3 years ago, okay? But we got Ron Wallace and his crew that works out of the airport got putting the water and the sewer lines into the new public safety building. Therefore, we couldn't put the crews out there that were working. They've done some other clearing out there. They built some parking lots. They cleared out some runway areas where we extended the runway 3-3. They did the clearing of the trees on that project, and we stayed it right along for quite a few years. That when we get done, we're going to make some recreation areas for the kids in that area. Something we've talked about for a long time.
So the money was in the overall budget?
Yeah.
Did it have a line item for it?
Not the said park, no.
Okay, thanks.
So my guess would be probably $30,000, Randy, if you were figuring out cost of labor, machinery, and materials.
The total cost?
I'll get it for sure, but I bet you it's pretty close.
Could you have an itemized cost for us, so we know?
Yes.
Legislator Walker. Can someone explain to me what this racetrack is? I'm a little unaware of what this, everybody keeps talking about a racetrack and recreation for kids. I mean, if it's a blacktop racetrack, I mean, how can kids afford for recreation to go around it? He took a pickup truck around it. I mean, I'm just wondering what it is.
Well, it's less than a tenth of a mile. It's a micro track, I guess you could call it. I don't know exactly what you would call it. I know go-karts could use it. One guy was doing it the other day. He had remote control cars. He was going around it. I think it's got a myriad of uses, but I'm pretty sure it's a little less than a tenth of a mile.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to straighten one thing out. I've had a lot of people back off the hell out of me because I asked a few questions about this complex. I had a phone call one day and I didn't know anything about it. I thought it had to do with the resolution we created for the gravel that was going to be used across the road on the Old Silkboro landfill. That was the answer I gave. And that was not the right answer, I found out after a while. That was like a Thursday. And so the next Monday, somebody else called me. And I thought, geez, I better get my car and go out there and take a look at this thing. So I went out and looked, and the guy said, gee, there's a racetrack taking shape. Sure was. I counted the rolling stock that was being used at that particular day. There was 17 pieces of equipment. There was dozers, graders, rollers, the whole ball of wax. And I called down here, and there wasn't an administrator that wanted to talk about it. And I called some of the legislators on the committee, and they didn't want to talk about it. I read in the paper that the county attorney didn't want to talk about it, and I have absolutely no objection to a park in the town of Valley, none whatsoever, providing that it is done in the proper way. And the proper way is for the committee to pass a resolution to expend these funds, bring it before this legislature, and the majority votes for it, fine, I got no problem with that. But everybody I walk into on the street is looking down their nose saying, what the hell are you guys doing down there? And it's not a case of whether it's $3,000 or $30,000 or $300,000. It's got to be done properly through the committee system so all of us know about it. There's nothing more embarrassing to have people call and you can't give them a proper answer. And that's exactly what happened in my case. I'm sorry, I get a lot more calls than the average legislator because I'm the multi one, I guess. But I'll always give them a straight answer if I know what it is. No, I don't know all the answers, and that was the statement that was made. Froehlich knows all the answers. Then the reason that I ask questions is because I didn't know the answers. So let's put that record straight. So in the future, with something like this, I don't care what the committee is. This happened to be the highway committee. Do it the right way, and nobody's going to criticize you for it. If you don't do it the right way, then you've crucified yourself, and you'll be hanging up on that cross.
Legislator Johnson.
I'm kind of switching gears here a little bit. I'm just curious, last month in Pulaski, we had a pretty controversial debate on the badge plan. The meeting was at 2 o'clock, the legislature meeting. Again, like everybody else, I didn't find out until afterward that the badge plan had in fact been closed. The decision to close the badge plan was at 10 o'clock. I would like to have an explanation as a legislator as to why the full legislature wasn't made aware of that during the course of the debate, because that would have been key. Would have been an intricate part of the debate. So I asked the chairman of the highway department if he could explain why we weren't notified of that.
I think at the time, we decided not to let it out because we thought it might affect the vote one way or the other. We didn't want everybody to think we were bad to close the plant because if we didn't have the plant, we'd have to close that plant. That wasn't the intention of closing that plant. The intention of closing that plant is we were notified that we were possibly over our DEC permit, and that morning, Don asked for a correct count of how much blacktop we put out, and Don got the account, and he decided that rather than have a lawsuit against him, we would close the plant down.
Oh, I understand that, and I respect that. Don, you articulated yourself well in the letter you sent all this after the fact. My question is why we were notified before the meeting, so that we could have been made aware of that. That seems to be part of the debate.
As chairman of the committee, I'll take the blame on that. I think that we probably should have. The committee decided not to, so I'll take the blame myself for not notifying the rest of the legislators. I'm sorry about it. There was no intent of ours but to keep it from the legislators, and I'll apologize for the whole thing.
I'll accept it, thank you.
I mean, it was probably my mistake for not notifying the legislators. We agreed in committee to keep it quiet until the next day, and that's what happened. But I'll take the blame for it, and I apologize. Thank you.
Yeah, actually, I got one last question concerning the racetrack, and I'll address this to Mr. Clark. If we're allowing people with go-karts or cars, whatever you want to call them, or even full-size pickup trucks to race around the track, what happens when somebody has an accident? Is there a liability question here?
Yes, there is a liability question. It's my understanding that any organized racing that will be done out there they will have their own insurance, and we're working with those organizations that are trying to use the facility. And secondly, we're looking at, we have our insurance consultants, our insurance company, taking a look at the liability, the entire liability issue. As far as I know, it's not open to the public at the present time, and we're taking measures to stop anyone from going on the facility until it is open to the public. I wouldn't say Mr. McMahon was trespassing, but I think close to that.
Legislator Turner.
Bruce, are you saying that nobody is using that, whatever, racetrack? I didn't even know we had a racetrack, but
Well, the
nobody
blacktop,
is using
it's my
it?
understanding that blacktop has not been completed yet, and the facility is not open to the public.
But is there any assurance that we have as a county to make sure that nobody is up there on that?
I mean, that's a big liability, I would think, if somebody's up there in a race car driving around.
As far as I know, no one's going out there driving around on it. Direct that to Mr. Maury, I believe that...
Oh, I would hope they should post it or something, I don't know, I get a little nervous.
Just a minute.
I was surprised when I went out there just to see that how you could drive down in there and around, you know, and I would hope that somehow we'd maybe have our sheriffs drive by a little more often, or have that fence somehow, because somebody could get in there and do some wheelies and stuff like this and really damage that. I've seen that happen in other areas. So, you know, it's wide open, and they could end up taking off over into that swampy area, and then we got a liability suit where somebody's hurt because they decided to take off to the trees.
Big blocks and stuff.
Legislator Walker.
Yeah, it was brought to my attention, somebody from the city called me up about the so-called racetrack, and they own some type of quarter midget cars, and I was told that there's a meeting tonight at the airport at 7 o'clock on this. Is that? And they asked me to be there to represent them, but I'm gonna be there tonight, and I would like to see some more legislators go there tonight at 7 o'clock. Maybe we can find out some more about this.
I have no
I
idea.
just got one last comment. I see Gene Robinson from opposite aging. Sir, Gene, can you tell me how many senior nutrition meals $30,000 will buy? How many meals you can buy for $30,000?
30,000? If our costs are running right now, complete costs are running, bear with an old memory, right around $3 a meal. 1,000 meals.
Well, I'd just like to remind everybody that where would you put our priorities in budget?
Oh, that's got it. Got it. Can you ask me, how many $1,000 worth of blacktop we put up at Camp Zebra?
$60.
Okay, did everybody know that was done?
What's this?
Everybody knew that blacktop was put up. It came to this, everybody in this legislature voted on the blacktop was put in Camp Zebra. $60,000. Did you vote on that, did you? Okay, next question.
Legislator Russell.
I'd like to point out for the legislators' information that there are existing plans that they might want to look at. One of them is the Oswego County Parks and Recreation Plan, and underneath that, which is an overall plan, and it'll tell about every park we have in the county, and we also have a breakdown by specific plan for every park that's in here. So I think it'd be incumbent upon a lot of the legislators to do some homework and read these plans. They might answer some questions before they have to, you know, bring it out onto the floor to work with. You know, it just would help them, I think.
I'd like to request that the clerk of legislature provide those copies for us, each and every one of them.
Yes.
Legislator Tabor.
I just have a quick question. I know it always came out in the paper that Don said at that point he wasn't aware that they had opened up the plan to do that. Do you know who did give the okay to open the plan up for that?
Well, Kurt did, my deputy.
I just wondered, because I know the paper said that you wasn't aware of it, and I didn't know who next in line would be.
Don, how much would it cost to open that plant? You know, shut everything and all that jazz.
Shut it back down.
I don't have a cost figure on that.
It's gonna cost money.
Well, it's cheaper to go a mile away to buy it than to open it up, shut it down.
It depends, and I know with Ron Wallace's, he was working out there. The problem we've had, you know, it's hard to say, like I mentioned at the committee last week, we've had 3 different projects that we had to finish up and put blacktop on when we couldn't run our plant. There was one that was up north where 69 and 23 come together, State Route 69. We had to buy the blacktop there out of Janesville, even though it was one of the farther plants away. That's got to go through the purchasing department. They get the price of the blacktop, they figure in the charge for mileage, and at their price, we had to buy it from Janesville. The next project we did, we had to buy it out of Clarkville. So we're running down through Sylvan Beach and Canastota with trucks to get blacktop. The next project we had was in Pulaski to finish up a bridge that was already tore apart, a culvert to clean out over that had to come out of water down. So there's no telling where we're going to have to buy the blacktop, even if the plant is closer. It's like you say, even though Northern was closer with these other projects, we couldn't buy it from them if we wanted to.
Why couldn't you?
Because of the price difference and the mileage in that, their price was still higher. See, we got to go to the purchasing agent and get purchase orders before we can buy back blacktop. He checks the current prices, checks the mileage from the site, where the plants are, and
tells us where we get the purchase order from, where we buy the blacktop.
Is it going to get the blacktop, or are they bringing it to us?
No, we get it.
So we send our trucks outside Oswego County to pick the blacktop up.
That's correct.
It doesn't seem like it's that cheap to run all the way to Clarkville with a $60,000 truck and a $10 to $15 van with benefits.
I agree with you.
It'd be cheaper to go somewhere else in the county.
I agree with you.
Do we get any out of Scruple?
We did not get it. They were still higher. The price per ton. That's not my call. We call to get the prices that we have to get to the purchasing department to get the purchase order. He tells us where we have to buy the blacktop. On this, because of the way we were going to do the trash, Ron said if we could fire our own plant up. Also, at all these places that we went to, every one of them, we have to wait. And that's not a good way to run blacktop. So on this, we wanted to run it all together.
Mr. McMahon, I'd like to explain the fact that Mr. Finn at our last meeting, I don't know if anybody, I don't know if you were there or not, Shirley, agreed to look into the case of where the price of equipment and all that was figured in, and he's looked at the mileage and everything. We're trying to get him to figure a better way so we don't have to tie the time up to go to these plants. Mr. Finn is working with us on that right now.
He's already done it, hasn't he? He just said he did it.
He's looking at some other
He's looking at some other options we can come up with, because this has come up about waiting in line and then going all over the county. We don't want to go to the county and get the blacktop, I'll tell you right now.
Yeah.
So if we can, if some other figures can be calculated in there for Mr. Finn to be legal, he's going to do that for us.
The question I had for Mr. Friend was the fact that when you had to go down to Clarksville through Sylvan Beach and all the different towns, it might be cheaper, better to go down 49 than even if you had to go to Janesville, because around 81 you got less stopping and starting, you got less insurance possibility or suits and that, and less wear and tear in your trucks. And I agree with you, but they draw a line like the crow flies, and this is the cheapest way, and that's the way it is. But I asked them to look at that different than that. I don't know what happened.
Could you provide us with the information that these decisions were based on, coming out of Finn's office and everything that they look at?
Yeah, he must have the chart.
You gotta give him Pat Friend, he got furniture for you.
Legislator Farley asked for it.
My son was in St. Joseph's Hospital, and the guy who was in the room with him was a town councilor and town manager. And I went to visit my son, and my son told this gentleman that I was a county legislator in Oswego County, so he was waiting for me.
And he said, I read the paper about Oswego County Highway Department coming to Janesville to get their blacktop. He says, we in the town of Manlius go to Northern and Fulton to get our blacktop because the waiting period is far less. Now, he said he was going to mail me an aerial photograph of its color, and I think we could pick out the Oswego County trucks in it. I haven't got it yet. He's going to send me a photograph. When he does, I'll give it to you, showing the lineup of trucks waiting to get blacktop in Janesville. So he says, you know, somebody's got their head screwed on backwards in Oswego County, and I agreed with him.
They might not be bidding for the stuff. They might be just going where they're supposed to be.
No, you're talking state price.
Okay.
You're talking state price.
Legislator Bryant.
I'd just like to say, there's two sides to it. Just base your belief on that they're traveling too far outside of the county. I'd like to see it bought in Oswego County. The project they were just talking about going through Clarkville, that was to my town in Constantia. My town's in the southeast end of this county as far as you can get. My county borders on the next county line. If they drive into the next county line to buy it, it's a closer distance. If they bought it in northern, to be in this county, I'd like to see it in this county, it'd be the same distance. So you can't always go by just words from out of the county.
Legislator Brewer, you had your hand up a little while ago.
No, I was upset.
Okay, Legislator Brewer.
John, this morning I was in the Public Works Committee, and you were talking about DEC has given us the third blessing, per se, and then went to EPA. But you made a statement, and you used two forms of that statement. It was, well, something about, I'm waiting for the written approval from EPA, but you said something that made me think that we didn't have to wait for that written approval. Do we have to wait for the written approval, or can we do it on a verbal?
We probably could start.
To open the plant.
We probably could start right now. DEC has given us an okay. There's not a problem with anything we've done with the permit. We've got everything through them. But I hate to fire up until I get something from EPA saying that they agree with it. Now, we've talked to them over the phone. We've asked for the consent order, but I'd like to wait for it to get here in writing before I start the plant.
But did they?
We could. Well, they didn't tell us that, but they don't. What they want to make sure that we have our DEC permit before they're okay. I sent everything down to them. I'm waiting for them to say okay back. But in case there is a problem, I hate to fire it up, go over the amount, and then be a problem that way. Hopefully we can get it next week, but there's no guarantees.
Donnie, do you what did DEC say? Did they give you verbal?
Yeah, they don't have a problem with any of it.
We got our DEC, it's the cleanest running plant in their whole district.
See, this tonnage thing has gotten a little bit out of
Can we see a
hand.
copy of it?
Yeah, 110,000 ton is what our original permit was for back in '78. In 1979, because of a lawsuit from an Alabama power company, all of the tonnage restriction was taken out of permits. From that point on, they go on emission, either sulfur, dioxins, whatever the emissions are, and air emissions on plants, not a tonnage restriction. So for example, if we can get a new mix plant and go for a new permit, it will have no tonnage restrictions. But because this plant was built before '79 and was in the existing permit, they kept it in there. But they said there's no problem with going beyond that.
So you're asking the EPA basically for a waiver of the tonnage permitted and to amend the permit?
DEC has already done that. They've okayed it. I talked to Norm Boyce numerous times. I was in there twice this week, and they've okayed everything. Everything's been signed and sent to EPA in New York City. We're just waiting to hear back.
Tell them the tonnage permit you're going for, Don, on this one.
To this one, you got to keep a tonnage on as 180, and even at that, we'll be 1/10 below the air emission standards.
Yeah, could you give us a copy of what DEC sent us so we know?
Yes.
Anyone else have any?
Comment, Mr. Chairman, I'd just like to, I mean, hearing that we're going here, we're going there, and we have, I've always been a stickler for private enterprise. And I have voiced my opinion about private enterprise over government many times from this chair. And if the fact is that we are shut down and we have to go to private enterprise to buy this asphalt, I would certainly would like someone to consider the powers to be that we go to a plant in Oswego County, if it's Northern Ready Mix or whoever it is, and give that person some business. That business pays taxes in Oswego County. I'd just like to be on record for that statement. Thank you.
Anyone else?
There is a misconception about state bid price. When I was working, I had to deal with state bid price on a lot of items. State bid price, in my mind, and I stand corrected, but I still say that it is a guideline. And the guideline is that if you can match or do better, or even have a slightly higher price with a reason why you are doing it, it'll hold up to audit 100% of the time. Example, fuel oil. We used to buy probably 200,000 gallons of fuel oil a year. The local bid was 0.2% above state bid price. But because of the services rendered by the local dealer, then you could justify the 0.2% increase in price. Blacktop, you could justify probably a lot more than $2 or $3 just by wear and tear on a vehicle, driving time, tire wear, engine wear, salary, fringe benefit, and a whole ball of wax would justify your buying a local product at even a higher price because you can justify the fact that you, over the long haul, save money by promptness, lack of wear and tear on your vehicle, and all these other things. So leaning on state price, I think, is a crutch. I would challenge it, and I think it ought to be looked at. Well, I guess you said that Pat Finn's looking into other aspects. And I think,
Can we move on with our agenda? If, everybody's had a chance to speak.
I believe that if everybody's had a chance, we will. Everybody had their say. It's not, we'll continue with reports of town and county officials. Are there any reports from town or county officials? If not, we will have reports of special committees, and I have, I believe Legislator Brewer has someone here that he wants to bring up.
We have the present award, Don. Who's talking about presenting the award to the highway committee?
Yes.
They have the highway committee up front, please.
Is Don over there?
I go Dick's about his price.
There's some travel.
Stay up there for the next one.
Okay, we've been asked to come up here.
Get this broadcast thing on straight?
Hopefully we can keep doing this more to let you know about some of the employees we have out there that's working for us every day. This is a young man now that's working out of Paris Drive for us, driving a truck. He's another one of these guys that I talked about 2 months ago that you just don't hear about. He's just out doing the job every day, and he's done it for 25 years. He's the type that, you never know he's there. All he does, the work just keeps getting done, and he's just always there. He's the type you don't have to worry about him, misusing sick time, misusing vacation time. He's one that doesn't cause you any problems. So he's the type that we like to present with a certificate of appreciation. I'd like to have Eugene Hall come forward and have the committee presenting with a 25-year certificate.
Thanks for having me around.
Turn around and Gene. Show your plaque to that camera.
Since we're already here, we have control of the floor here for that. I'd like to keep it. I'd like to have Mark Legislator come up if you would, please. He's busy, Junior. I'd like to present this to Mark. It's from the National Association of the Counties. We received some awards in the past for our solid waste system. We've got another one for the solid waste policy guidelines of Oswego County. And I'd like to present this to Mark, and if would, Mark could just say a few words about it.
Well, my staff put this together, and I didn't realize they were doing it, but it's for the procedures and policies we have, for instance, for permitting hauling companies and for checking those, even though we have a radioactive waste situation, it really wasn't, something that we even knew about at the time. But NACO apparently thought that we have a pretty good program as far as keeping up with what's going on and regulating our hauling and our trash, and I guess this is proof of it. Appreciate it. Yeah, and I'd like to thank the health department too, because they're part of it, and we do spot checks at the transfer stations for any kind of hazardous waste or anything, so it's more than just our department.
Legislator Randall, this committee.
Kathy Summer. Kathy Summer.
Kathy?
These are fun.
No, I didn't do it. He did it. He did it. Give it to me. And I said, no. Thank you all, Warren. Thank you. Maybe Kathy can.
several years ago, the Youth Bureau discovered that one of the problems that our local recreation programs had, especially the municipal town, village, and city recreation programs, was that they could not find enough qualified staff that had the certifications that they needed to work in recreation programs. The kinds of certifications I'm talking about are things like lifeguarding, water safety instruction, CPR, first aid, basic life skill support, archery, water safety, those types of activities. And so the Scarborough Recreation Department and the Youth Bureau got together and put together a 5-day program which we offer every year at Camp Collison Tomb, and it's kind of a one-stop shopping approach. Residents from the county can come and they can stay all 5 days or just stay the number of days they need to take the course that they need, and we offer in total 10 different courses, and over the course of the last 4 years, we have trained several hundred county residents in different certification areas so that they can be qualified to go back and work in their local recreation programs. In turn, that serves to provide different kinds of recreation activities for thousands of our county residents. The two people that really should be up here accepting it, if they were unavailable, is one, Jim Profaya, who works for the Youth Bureau and is also our Camp House person. And he has put countless hours into this, and I asked him to come with me today, and he said, Kathy, I have an appointment with the Oswego Middle School to set up a program. I'm sorry, I have to be there, so that's where he is right now. Also, Judy Talbot, who used to be the recreation director for the town of Scarborough, and worked very hard on this, and Judy recently accepted the job with Onondaga County Parks and Recreation, so she was not available to be here. Just also a quick thanks to 2 other agencies that are absolutely critical to the success of this program. One is the County Health Department. For several years, the County Health Department has provided books and supplies of materials that are necessary for the different courses so that we can keep the cost of the courses down for our county residents. And they also have provided us with a van to transport people from Camp Collison into the city to use the swimming pool for the water park and instruction. The other partner is the Oswego City School District, who has joined us as a partner so we can use their swimming pool at no cost, again, so we can keep the cost down for our residents. So thank you.
Legislator Warndorf.
This award was given for the Oswego County Oswego River Scenic Assessment Project. What we did a few years ago was a study of the Oswego River corridor, which looked at all of the scenic and recreational resources and potentials along that river. And as a result of that study, a number of very good things have started to happen in that river corridor, direct result of that study. If you noticed in the Route 41 reconstruction that just was completed along by Black Creek in the town of Valney, they put a fishing access parking lot and a trail down to Black Creek. That was a project that was identified in this study. There was no intention to do that at the time the plan for 41 came up. We went to DOT and DEC, and they saw the wisdom of doing it and did it. Also, projects that were identified in the study, the Indian Point Boat Launch in Fulton received a grant, a federal grant, and it will be improved dramatically in the next year. Also, the Village of Phoenix has received a number of grants for projects that were identified in this study. There are others going to be coming, I'm sure. So you'll see over the next several years how a planned approach to development in a corridor can really make a difference, and it really has helped, I think, get these projects going forward. Thank you. Prepared the application for this that pointed all these benefits of this project out, and I'm sure they had a lot to do with the award being granted.
Legislator Meade. Well, I'm sorry, Legislator Chetney.
Mr. Chairman, you got a lawsuit on your hands here. Somebody broke my chair.
Nobody uses it, but you.
Well, I said it.
I moved the chair.
Potential litigation.
No. Janet come up. Janet will tell you what to do. Okay?
Potential litigation.
I'll leave it open.
Referendum public education program. This was really a joint project between the Washington Service Department last year, staff from the county administrator's office, the county attorney's office, and the general government committee. And we all worked together to develop a public education program to inform the county residents about the judge's court order last year for the county to develop a redistricting proposal and have it on the budget ballot. And the program involves a series of interviews, public meetings around the county, and special issues of the county newsletter that was distributed to all the residents, legislators who on the project. And really was a joint effort of personalities that were involved, and also the news media who were very cooperative and publicized the program as well. Thank you.
Legislator Eating, this committee. Madam President, to litigation. Morals.
Hi, buddy.
This is the National Association of Counties Achievement Award, presented in Springfield County, New York, for election night return. And this should go to Mr. Bortles. Congratulations, sir.
Mr. John Hamill in particular, authored this application. Once again, I'd like to thank the legislature and NACO for recognizing our ongoing award winning efforts. This particular application, I guess, is significant to a lot of people in this room since it deals with election night returns. And I guess some of you were at our place on Tuesday night to view that application, and if that comes here in November, thanks again for recognizing it.
Next is Legislator Bryant with this committee.
That's the health committee up front, please.
Got two of them, three of them.
They got 3 awards.
Thank you. The first set of cards I have is Betty DeSantis and Tammy with us, who have been, were involved in developing and running our early intervention service program. You know, our early intervention services, which you have heard so much about from us this year, our without question, have been determined as outstanding across New York State. And I'd like to thank these people as well as my committees for allowing us to have this honor. The second one we have is the Mental Health Alternatives to Incarceration Program. The mental health piece of Alternatives to Incarceration, again, was done by our staff in Joette Dean's shop, and it's been somewhat an exceptional program. I'd like to also mention that beyond this, Joette's not with us today, she's on vacation, but we also were just included in New York State's most recent most innovative mental health program publication, with two specific separate programs that were considered most innovative in New York State. And again, I'd like to take the opportunity to mention that, and I'll also offer regards to Joette when she's back. Thank you. The third one we received, of course, is for County Employee Defensive Driver Program. I have with us both Keith Collins and Russ Bauer, who these fellows really went and got certified in defensive driving and have developed a program within the agency for all agency employees who drive county cars, as well as all county employees that we hope to expand it to over the coming months, and thank you for that job.
Next is the Legislator Burry and his committee.
Yes, thanks, Mr. Chair. I'd like to invite the Real Resource Committee and also Rural Resource Committee and Priscilla Van Gorder, our program assistant from the Cooperative Extension, to come forward at this time. October is National 4-H Month. Real. Real resource. From the
Melissa Macker will read the proclamation.
Whereas Oswego County Cooperative Extension 4-H, in cooperation with the full legislature, has each year served the youth of Oswego County. And whereas each year National 4-H Week has taken place during the month of October, and this year being recognized October 2nd through the 8th. And whereas, again this year, youth ages 5 to 19, and adults who work with youth from the numerous towns and wards in the county will be served by the various education programs from Cooperation Extension 4-H. And whereas leadership and subject matter materials and information obtained from Cooperative Extension will be utilized by 4-H clubs, schools, and special interest groups to further the growth and development of Oswego County residents. Now, therefore, I, Frank Archer, Chairman of the Oswego County Legislature, on behalf of the entire legislature, do hereby endorse and approve that the month of October be recognized as Oswego County 4-H Month.
Barbara, what's your last name? From a very active member of our committee, would like to report on some awards that were given.
Two girls in Oswego County won a very prestigious National 4-H Club Congress Award. In December, they'll be going to Orlando, Florida. They are Patty Barker for achievement, Patty Wilson for citizenship. We're very proud to say that Patty's from the town of Palermo. It's been 20 years since my daughter Margaret won that award. And what year did we have the one from West? 1982, there was a girl from West Monroe. Unfortunately, National Club Congress is being discontinued this year, so this will be the last time the children get a chance to know them. Maybe we should write some letters.
Amen, corner.
I gotta read these.
We will now proceed with resolutions, motion, and the first resolution is by Legislator Beckwith.
Chairman, I'd like to offer the following resolution and urge its adoption.
Resolution authorizing the execution and delivery of deeds of property sold by the Oswego County Legislature, titles to which were acquired by the tax sales of 1966 through 1989.
Is there any discussion on this resolution? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution is passed. Next resolution is by Legislator William Russell.
Mr. Chairman, I offer the following resolution and urge its adoption.
Mr. Clerk to read the heading.
Resolution authorizing changes in the Oswego County legislative rules and order of business.
Is there any discussion on Legislator Turner?
Mr. Chairman, I appreciate this resolution more than anybody in this room probably because I've been asking for probably at least 4 years for night meetings. However, I would like to ask if we could amend it. I just don't think that 2 night meetings is, you've got 12 months in a year, and you're taking 2 nights of the year to give the public an opportunity, number one, to come here for a meeting. And number two, the people in this room that do have a job, I know a lot of them are retired, but I'm not yet. And I think that I would like to amend it to April, June, July, and September.
I would second that.
Motion has been made and seconded to amend Resolution 2 to change the number of meetings to, how many was that?
4.
4 meetings to be
April, June, July, and September.
April, June, July, and September. Is there any discussion on this? Legislator Bryant.
Is that omitting the October? You don't want October at all?
I want to take October out and change it to April, June, July, and September.
November usually is a night meeting because of the budget process.
I don't think it's too much to ask.
Hold on, we got Legislator Bryant.
As to the amendment, I'd like to ask Legislator Russell, wasn't this original resolution promulgated as a result of a survey that you did? Why wasn't it completed?
In response to that, yes, we did have a survey, and that was the majority of the people wanted to, they suggested in the survey 2 evening sessions. On top of that, we have set aside, for instance, a month in November for natural open meeting at night for the discussing of the budget. And as you know already, we've had 4 sessions that carried on into the evening session on there. So that as a result, this is what promulgated this one here to correct the deficiencies that were not present. They were not listed in the legislative guide, and as a result of the full legislative survey. So that's the background of it.
What was the distribution of the survey?
Of the survey,
We never got a copy of legislative, so we didn't privy to it. We've never seen it.
I can't report that right now. It was given between at the General Government Committee when we did on there. But
I have no problems with more evening meetings. I think it's a great idea, but I just think it should go back to the General Government Committee. Switch it over.
Not all. You did not get the survey?
We got the survey, but I was asking if the results of the survey. Most, and I wonder.
Why didn't we get a result of the survey?
it was presented to the General Government Committee and overwhelmingly supported the idea of 2 evening sessions. As you remember the survey, one of the statements in there was how many, and there wasn't anyone, that an overwhelming response other than 2. But I can report at the next meeting what it was.
Was there any discussion to ask the public, if they wanted more meetings? I know we have the legislature, discussion in government committee to ask the public how they thought about more meetings.
No.
Legislator Turner.
I'd like to direct my question to Mr. Russell. Did every legislator return the survey?
No. There were some that did not fill out the survey.
So really, we don't have a response from 36 legislators. How many, do you recall how many?
I don't recall who did
I
not,
appreciate
who
what
declined.
you did. This is more than has happened in the past 5 years, and I do appreciate it. But I really think that we should be given, the opportunity to the public. I think these are public meetings, and I don't see anything wrong with it, allowing the public to come to a meeting in the evening. And I know a good percentage of people in this county have to work for a living.
Well, I think that's what was the whole basis of promulgating this resolution, and that was the basis of it. And rather than make a complete decision within the general government committee, developed a survey and passed it out to all of the legislators that did respond. Went along with an overwhelming support of some night meetings, and about the only number that was discussed was 2 in the committee, and that was what that promulgated it at that time on there. So that was the basis of it.
Motion has been made to amend this, to change it to April, June, July, September. And it has been seconded. Is there any further discussion on this? Legislator Johnson? Or Russell?
Mr. Chairman, I would point out that some of the things that we did take into account when we did that was some of the health problems that some of the existing legislators, some specifically told me that some of them were elderly and they have problems driving at night. Personally, myself, I have a medical problem where extended sitting was one of the things that I took into account. So we did take in a lot of variables when we did decide this on there. We all want to have the people notified and aware of what we take place here. We have made some inroads in doing that, but there were a lot of variables along that were listed on the survey that the General Government Committee did take into account when we did look over the surveys and make this resolution.
Legislator Eden?
November can be a nasty month. At night, you're driving 100 miles. I can't see why we can't have the meetings. I don't care how many meetings you have. I'd stay away from November.
It's September. We're not talking about September.
Legislator Van Scheck, you had your hand up.
Yeah, sitting on the government committee, we went through the survey and the resolutions presented on that basis. I think that there were some comments that were raised, and I think were just echoed here a moment ago, about particularly legislators have to drive late at night. And there were some problems, because if you remember, the last time, I think it was midnight by the time we got out of here. And Steve was just mentioning to me, your productivity runs down as you get later at night, and our meetings seem to be extended longer and longer and longer. I think we can go back and forth on this thing. I think we need to resolve it by vote. I do resent this business about was the survey released and such. It was done in good faith in the government committee. We acted upon it. There's no attempt. I don't think there's anybody here who has an axe to grind particularly on this one, except that the people that responded to the survey, which most of the legislators, to the best of my knowledge, responded and said that they probably would like to have 2 nights and just keep it down that number. And I know it's a lot easier because I think Shirley comes from the city here where the city common council meets, and you have city legislators. It takes them 5 minutes to get home. And there is a problem that we do have with the Eastern End people that have to drive these distances. And I think you have to take that into account. But the way to resolve it, perhaps, is just to go ahead and vote. You've got all legislators here. You either vote 2 nights or 4 nights. You heard both sides on it. So either you vote down this resolution or not. Come on.
I believe this resolution gives recognition of what the merits of this night meeting issue are, and I applaud Shirley for persistence in this effort. I think the recognition has been given. I think also we've got to keep in mind too, with this year that's been very full of many, many changes, it's only prudent to take a look at the long haul one step at a time. I think we need to move with these 2 meetings, and then as we go with these meetings, proceed aware that this can change in the future if we feel it's appropriate.
Legislator Beckman, would you take your hand up a little Legislator Bateman?
Regarding Legislator Van Schack's remark about staying late hours and so forth, I would submit that the reason we stay so late is because the public does show up and they do speak. And if we don't have more at night, then they won't have a chance to speak.
Legislator Turner.
I'll tell you what.
Let's make a deal.
Let's make a deal. I will withdraw my amendment and I'll change it for April, June, and September.
Children's.
You're changing your amendment. Is there a second to the change? Yeah. The motion has been made and seconded to amend to change the amendment to April, June, and September. Is there any further discussion?
Roll call vote.
Roll call vote.
Besides these regular 2 meetings?
We're going in April, June, and September for night meetings.
What do you remember?
For three night meetings, April, June, September, and we're going to have a roll call vote.
All right, those who want 3 meetings will vote yes. Those who don't want 3 meetings will vote no. I think that's right. Hanson.
No.
Skinner.
No.
Edith.
Yes.
Bryan.
Yes.
Brewer.
Yes.
Sahasti.
Yes.
Boynton.
Yeah.
Weinhold.
Yes.
Frawley.
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes.
Keeney.
Yes.
Beckwith.
Yes.
McMahon.
Yes.
Murray.
Yes.
Warndorf.
Yes.
Jarrett.
No.
Hall. Benshad.
Yes.
Shalafu.
Yes.
Hansi.
Yes.
Chutney.
Yes.
Turner.
Yes.
Walker.
Yes.
Bateman.
Yes.
Osatek.
Yes.
Babcock.
No.
Brown.
Yes.
Ward.
Yes.
Randall.
No.
Balcom.
No.
Reed.
No.
Chesbro.
Yes.
Church.
Yes.
Buck.
Yes.
Tabor.
Yes.
Russell.
Yes.
Back to the original resolution. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution is passed.
Gotta get that out of there first.
You want to vote?
How much?
Now you gotta go with the.
A lot.
$1,018.26 yes, 187.74 no, 11.71 absent.
Now, someone move on the original resolution as amended. Is there a second? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Resolution is passed. Resolution number 3 is by Legislator Van Schack and Chetney.
I offer this resolution and urge its adoption.
Clerk will read the heading.
Resolution endorsing the Plus 5 Buy Locally campaign sponsored by the Oswego County Private Industry Council and the Oswego County Chambers of Commerce Council.
Any discussion on this legislative?
Isn't somebody going to
Yes,
speak
I
on
just
this?
want to, Mr. Chairman, belabor an issue and put my 2 cents worth in at this spot rather than before the session. If we endorse this, ladies and gentlemen, then we're endorsing buying locally within Oswego County. One of those industries in Oswego County is Northern Ready Mix, which just happens to be at this point in town of Mountain. I endorse this. I think we should take a look at it and make sure we buy as much as we possibly can within the borders of Oswego County. Even if it does cost a little bit more, from asphalt to light bulbs, I don't really care. Nuts and bolts doesn't make any difference. Get it in Oswego County, 5%, and we can make that goal on asphalt alone. Thank you.
Nancy, where's Nancy? I think it's worthy. There's some features in this program I think the legislature should be aware of before we even get into discussing it. So I appreciate if Nancy could at least fill us in on some of this. Why don't you come forward?
Thank you, Herb. Just, I know that you're anxious to move along. The Private Industry Council had asked me to facilitate bringing the area chambers of commerce together. There are 7 in Oswego County, to see if we could together work on some issues that are related. Bottom line, the idea for me in terms of job training and job creation is if someone in Mexico buys something in Phoenix, and the more that someone buys from Mexico in Phoenix, and Phoenix in Hannibal, and Hannibal in Oswego, et cetera, somewhere along the line there's going to be some job creation, and that's where I come in terms of putting people to work. That's the bottom line. That's what we're trying to do here. The Council of Chambers was formed, and we are looking at how can each chamber help each other. The first project is the Buy Local campaign, the +5 Oswego County. We're starting with a campaign to get business, industry, school districts, and then the question was, so Nance, is county government going to follow suit? And so you have the resolution here before you. We're asking large businesses, industry to start first, start the ball rolling. They have the largest wherewithal to do this, and then we're working with small businesses. If everybody buys 5% more locally, we estimate a return to the community of $68 million. What you will see in terms of the consumer, nobody will be left out of this campaign. When we get to the holiday season, we will be encouraging local individuals to buy 5 more holiday gifts this year than they did last. Again, if everybody buys 5% more or 5 more holiday gifts than what they did last year, we will have a significant impact in our community.
Then basically you're asking the county not to just support it, but to put something in action and take some action to redirect our policies and to go along with some of the things that Legislator Buck was talking about is to refocus our direction to buy locally. And I know Northern is one of them that has been shunned out of this local buying by Oswego County, and I know there's some truck companies that have been shunned out too.
Well, now, we fully understand as a group that there are businesses who have said to me, this is great, but I can't find what it is, what I buy. I can't find it in Oswego County. Or when I go to an Oswego County firm, they cost more than if I go to Onondaga County because they sell in bigger volumes. And our response is, yes, that's true. We are not asking people to, we're not expecting people to spend more for inferior service, inferior product. What we're looking at is wherever possible to increase their purchasing within Oswego County. What we see this happening is opening up some business opportunities in Oswego County where what we can do is find out about a higher demand. There's a demand here that other people didn't know about. So
you're basically not asking us just to support it, but to put some action into the plan and be a part of it.
Wherever, I think the last resolution is make every effort to.
I'm on this council. I'm the president of a chamber in Mexico. I'm also a small business owner, and I'm also a legislator. And from every aspect, I can see this as being a positive. I mean, But what we are asking, we're not saying that we have to follow our rules with our purchasing, okay? We understand that. But there are places where we can go out and maybe get bids from more people within our county. I mean, we're not asking Mr. Finn to do anything that he shouldn't be doing, but we're asking him to look within our county and to get bids from within our county also, and maybe more bids from that. But all the way around, from the, as Nancy said, bottom line, if you go out and you would have bought 5 Christmas gifts in Onondaga County, look for them here in Oswego County. If you're a small business, look for your paper goods or your light bulbs or snow plowing or whatever here in Oswego County. We have all these here. And once we start to grow little bit by little bit, it may mean me keeping another part-time person on for the winter that I couldn't keep on and I would have had to lay off. You know, I mean, it's not going in my pocket, but it's going to keep that person working, paying taxes and offering services. So it's definitely a good plan.
I was handed a letter by, it's headed A Business and Taxpayers Point of View, and I'll read it to you. This was given me in the post office in the city of Fulton this morning. Without a doubt, there are so many advantages to using local business. With so many companies downsizing or closing, the job market is basically non-existent. If we were to have a portion of the county's business, we would hire more employees. We in turn would hire employees from our county's unemployed. By employing people from our own county, they in turn would become responsible tax-paying citizens. With an income, they would be spending money in our county for food, gas, clothes, groceries, vehicles, supplies, and such. That in turn generates income for a wide variety of services and products, product-minded businesses. They in turn would find it necessary to increase their employee. It becomes a circle, and the best part is the circle becomes bigger and bigger, and we are helping our county in a large variety of businesses, trades, and services. If the county continues its practice of purchasing outside the county, example, Blacktop from Onondaga County and from Clarksville, trucks from Tracy, and so on, then all we are doing is supporting other counties. Oswego County tax money is being used to support other counties' businesses and people. In captions, it is definitely time for Oswego County to take care of our people and our businesses. Just as an example, they mentioned Tracy. I got this figure from purchasing. In the last 5 years, we've spent with Tracy $10,451,283. Now, I checked, just for the heck of it, with some people that sell trucks, and Ford and Chevy and Dodge and GMC and probably several others, and I've never seen a 10-wheeler that was of this brand, and not a one of them I talked to ever had an opportunity to even bid for a 10-wheel dump truck. And I gave the specs. Well, it depends on how you write the specs. And that's what it's all about. This $10,451,000, if a portion of that was spent in this county, and I'd like to turn this in for the records, this letter. It's from several business people, and I think it speaks well of what we're trying to do here. In the future, I'd like to see the specs a little broader, where maybe give some of our local people a shot at a 10-wheel dump truck. Or I'm not saying earth movers or anything like that, but I think we can do a better job.
Mr. Chairman, I think that Pat Finn should have a chance to defend himself on that statement that they don't have a chance to bid. I believe Pat Finn has a list of everybody he sends these bids to, and I think in all fairness, Mr. Finn should be able to answer that himself. I think that Mr. Finn would...
Gladly.
Asked him.
Yeah,
No, it was from anonymous money. No, it was anonymous.
Is there any further discussion on this resolution?
Several of them are on this picture.
Okay.
Well, I was talking about it first.
Legislator Ansel?
Yes, we're talking about the bids of trucks, dump trucks, Legislator Frowley. Do we have bids on them? I heard once that we have a rental lease program and then we buy them. Do we have only bids on equipment?
We can't hear him in the back of the room.
He wants to know if they have bids on trucks they buy, and yet the answer is yes, they do have bids on the trucks they buy. Not lend lease.
Then we don't rent trucks. Tracy Road, we buy them.
Buy.
On bids.
That's
I
correct.
find it very difficult to believe that once in a while, somebody wouldn't, have a little bid for, that would meet specs for maybe a Chevrolet, 10-wheeler, I don't know. It seems rather peculiar that $10,451,283 the last 5 years, and nobody else in this county has sold, and by the way, Tracy's out of the county, has sold a 10-wheel dump truck to the county.
I'd like to say something to that. I spent several years on the Public Works Committee, and to my knowledge, the Public Works Committee never bought a piece of machinery except at low bid, which is what they're required to do. And the bids go out, you can talk to Pat Finn, but he sends them out to
I have asked
everybody.
you repeatedly to have a minority member of this legislature on that committee so we can be part of the process and we can properly audit what's going on. Maybe you don't want us on there. That's what it seems like.
Are you saying you don't believe me when I tell you that we
Well, you
don't?
take it any way you want.
I know that what Ed is offering at least is to buy in Oswego County, which is the intent of this resolution. I think in all fairness to Mr. Finn, there have been questions raised here today. He should answer whether he can do this at the close of the meeting, because it's not germane to this.
No, that's not a problem.
Ed, you said almost, and I can have it read back.
Only counts in horseshoes, or
Well, when you said, easy, when you said almost in terms of questioning whether or not the people in Oswego County have a chance to bid on this equipment, I think that's about as close as you can get to having a ringer in terms of what you're saying. In fact, it's a clunker. But all I'm suggesting is let's return back to this resolution, give Mr. Finn a chance to discuss the problem you're talking about.
Let's deal with this issue.
Let's deal with this issue.
We have one more person who's raised their hand, Legislator Bryan.
Mr. Chairman, when we finish this resolution, can I request a 5-minute recess because Legislator Brewer is going to get addressed.
Let's table this till he comes back.
Well, this resolution, not doing that.
No, this is the same resolution. I don't have a problem with this resolution. We can finish this, but I'd like a 5-minute recess at that time so that Legislator Brewer can get back there and address those.
Okay. All in favor? Opposed? The resolution is passed.
5 minutes.
5-minute recess.
Yeah, they're working on it. They decided about the water line, they're building it.
Next resolution is by Legislator
I was out
Russell.
there taking pictures of your son this afternoon.
No, they're doing the road.
Yeah, but they're building the water line underneath it first.
Oh, that,
I'll ask the clerk to read the heading.
Mr. Chairman, this time, would it be possible to have Mr. Finn come here and explain the way he does the answer Mr. Crowley's questions on the bidding
Let's
process?
just finish this resolution and we'll do that. Where's the clerk? Marguerite. Go ahead and read it.
Resolution urging the New York State Legislature to amend the Freedom of Information Law.
Is there any discussion on this resolution?
Mr. Chairman.
Legislator McGinn.
When I first saw this resolution in our packet, I thought, my God, next month, Government Committee is going to have a resolution that we eliminate the word public service in all of our documents. I'm appalled at what I see here. You know, we hear in Ways and Means that the state is, as you know, hitting us with mandates and hitting us with mandates, and now here we're asking the state to sneak in a mandate to ask the public to pay more for information they should have in the first place. And I know as a legislator that I've asked for some information, and it takes a long time to get it sometimes. I also see that some of the information that's gotten through Freedom of Information requests from the public is very helpful in bringing things to light around here. And if we support something like this, we ought to change that logo up there. We ought to put a pocketbook up there and have a hand dipping into it and tell the people to bring your money to Oswego County if you want any information. I don't support it, and I think we ought to get rid of it and put it in the trash.
I hold my hand at your right to know, okay? And I think that every one of the legislators should get a copy of this, maybe even that we provide it to them. But I can tell you on page 6, one of it says designation of record access officer. We are required, under the regulations, a record access officer or officers must be appointed to coordinate an agency's response to public requests for records. Okay, and I believe we have that through Marguerite. I think she takes care of that. On page 7, it says fees. Copies of records must be made available on request, except when a different fee is prescribed by statute. An agency may not charge for inspection, certification, or search for records, or charge in excess of 25 cents per photocopy up to a 9 by 14 inch, and that's in a section. If an agency doesn't have a photocopying, they can charge for transcripts. We have photocopies. On page 13, we discussed this earlier about the fact of what can be in a executive session. It says discussions regarding proposed, pending, or current litigation. The question that I asked prior to that, without this book, I would not have known, was the fact when Art said, well, it was possible that we may have been sued. Well, that wasn't enough to require that particular instance of the proposing of the batch plant to be discussed in executive session, because there was nothing pending, there was nothing proposed, and there was nothing current in litigation in it. So these are things that we need to know, and these are things we need to provide to the people. We have enforcement, which is on page 15, and it reads, what can be done if a public body holds a secret meeting? What if a secret body makes a decision during an executive session that should have been open? You can sue that body. I think we need to realize that these are things that people want to know from their government. And by no means do I support asking them to pay any more than the 25 cents a copy. And I do think that every single one of our legislators should be given a copy of this from us in one of their packets next month or whenever we can take them.
Yes, I bought some copy paper on sale for $2.33 a package, so I guess that's what, a ream? It seems that 3 cents a sheet for most copiers that my boss has asked for a cost on leaves 22 cents for the help to look up what they need to look up, and I think that's enough to cover the cost of that sheet of paper.
Anyone else have anything? Legislator Johnson.
I just want to refer to the General Government Committee and find out where the complaint came from that we need to increase the cost of getting information to the public.
Legislative
Unless Mr. Russell wants to speak, as a member of that committee, remember that this is something urging Albany. It's not saying what we're going to do. We presently are rightly, as Shirley's pointed out, I think it's 25 cents a copy, isn't it, Shirley? We had a request for 1,500 copies just recently of something, 1,500 sheets, which paid for itself. There's no problem. I don't have any problem with the 1,500. But the problem that the government committee was faced with, that we're catching from other counties, is that person did pay. It took all day plus in order to run and get the materials. I'm not complaining because it carried itself. So in other words, that's not so much the difficulty, quarter paid. What happens is if a person comes in with a request that may not be, I don't want to quantify or qualify, but a request that just to aggravate and says, we want to have full research. I'm talking, because I think, Shirley, I'm talking way out. Now, I'm just, before I see you, I'm reading your body language. But way out, and how do you handle that when it takes days to prepare and to prepare a report for 2 pages? And this is what the committee was wrestling with. And that's why it's not that we're saying that we are going to charge more. It's a matter of enabling counties and other places, if they wish to charge for it. Now, I think in view of some of the discussion, the committee might want to look at it. We could send it back to the committee. Might be a possibility. But there is an inherent behind this. It's not just what Barbara's talking about, 2 or 3 copies. There's a person that came in 1,500 sheets, and it was a legitimate request, and it all worked out fine. I'm not regretting it at all. It was the right thing. I have no problem with it whatsoever, because it paid for itself, and the person worked all day. But you get a number of these kinds of requests that require far more research, and it's not quite as easy as it looks on the surface. That's all I'm saying. And the committee wrestled with that, and I don't know whether or not Bill wants to add anything to that, and that's the problem we face, because I have the sensitivity of what you guys are saying, and I'm not fighting that, but there's another side to this too, that you can also tie up government with kinds of requests that can take days and days to do that may not show at a quarter a page because you only have a 10-page document. You get $2.50 for working for hours and taking an employee away from other things. And all I'm saying is that how do you balance that? This was an attempt to urge the legislature to let counties do it, but it does not say in this resolution that we will do it necessarily.
I just want to note that I have a difficult time. I appreciate what Legislator Van Schack has said. I just have a difficult time supporting something like that. And if it goes to the point where we do adopt or accept this resolution, it becomes valid, that attached to this resolution that we're going to send to Governor Cuomo, Senator Wright, Assemblywoman Sullivan, that we put a roll call vote on there, and I'll request a roll call so that we can show just how many people here, how many legislators don't agree with this urgent to get this through.
I believe that the legislature would like to speak to this issue.
Yes, the FOIL requests come through my office, and very often they're just for a copy of a septic tank inspection and so on, and there's nothing to that at all. You just fire it right out. There are occasions, there has been one lately, where someone wrote and wanted all the records on something for 1990 through 1994. So it happened to involve one of the departments that I'm in quite frequently. And it took several days because we don't have files in the office for any more than, we'll say, 1994, 1993. They're down in the dungeon, they're in storage. It takes time to gather the stuff all together. So when it was all gathered together and I walked into the office, a conference table was loaded with boxes of material. Now, if we had gone ahead and copied all that, we would have tied up a Xerox or a duplicating machine for 2 days. Instead of that, we called the people. The person came in, brought her attorney with her. They sorted through the material for about 4 hours, and they walked away with not nearly as much as we would have done had we just gone ahead and given them what they'd asked for. And that has worked out very well with people who have wanted lots of material about something. People in the room have spent time, we'll say, at the health department going through records, and then only got what they really needed. We welcome people coming in and taking a look at what we've got. That's no problem. I think back when you were campaigning, you came in the office and reviewed some material that we had, and that was fine. And I think everybody should do that, and we're certainly there to provide anything anybody wants. But there are some occasions where it really, the cost of the time involved and getting it all together, and you want something for 5 years, I mean, then you really have run into some time. We have never complained about it, never. And we've saved people a lot of time and money.
Well, I appreciate that, and I certainly understand that, being a participant of wanting documentation in the past. Again, I think that we're supposed to maintain our status of being a government for the people, and it's a controversial issue, and it's difficult, and I can appreciate the work that goes into something like this, but that's what we're here for. And I don't know what the answer is, but
The answer, certainly in my opinion, isn't to urge the state legislature to change the laws where it's going to cost the people more to have to want to review documents.
Actually, I don't know what the publication date is on that, Shirley. 1992. I'm not sure whether they revised it or not, but when we got into the freedom of information business, it was quite a while ago, and the volume wasn't there. I mean, they didn't really have a grasp of how far it was going to go.
Legislator Van Schack.
In view of what Marguerite is saying, in view of something that was said before the meeting, there may be another way with this dilemma in terms of certain kinds of items that would be, that the public would have to share the burden of looking, because if you go in with a lawyer and you're looking for something that happened in committee meetings, let's say you have something you want to find out, you don't know what year it was, you say, I want 5 years of committee meetings going back, you know, and people are digging, it's a fishing expedition is what it is. And I know it's noble because we want to satisfy the public, and yet on the other hand, that does take employees' time, and I think Marguerite has found a compromise. And in fact, I think even Ms. Smart, before this started today, even mentioned as a possibility. Under the circumstances, what I would like to do is to send it back to committee at this time. I would move to send it back to committee.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution.
I oppose.
Legislator Tabor.
I just would like to make one statement on this. I would think it would be very sad that Oswego County was the person who submitted a resolution to take and make our constituents pay more. I wouldn't put my name on that. And I understand totally, and I think because you've done it for me also, Marguerite, you said, look, there's a lot here, do you want to take a look at it and see what you want? And I think that's a fair way of doing it. I think that's you know,
we work it out.
I don't want to spend a quarter page on something I don't need.
Right.
And
We don't want to have it.
compromise with that, but I would feel very bad about it.
We passed this resolution, no further discussion on it. Legislator Bryant you had something you wanted to say?
Well, I just asked again to recess so Mr. Flynn could come in so as Mr. Brewer could introduce him and bring us up to speed on that discussion of how we do the purchasing. You said we would do it right after.
Okay. All right. Pat, would you like?
Mr. Crawley made a statement that people did not have a chance to bid on trucks and equipment that basically were and I'm just representing our committee, and everybody here that has to do business dealings and everything else has to deal with bad debt. I know that on our committee, every time we bid anything in our committee, Pat brings us a list of all the people he sent the bid to and a copy of all the bids, which I think is very good. And I'd like to have you answer questions for the people concerning our committee or if any other committee they want to address. Thank you, Pat.
When we bid something, we follow the state law, which is very well defined. We also follow the county purchasing policy, which was approved by this body. It was approved last January, the January before, and so on. As far as Tracy Road Equipment is concerned, we have spent a lot of money with them. We do send out the bids. Generally, they go to 10 to 15 different companies. I can tell you that probably 5 or 6 years ago, we used to receive some complaints from some of the other vendors that they didn't think that the specs were being fair. I've tried to tighten the specs up in the last 5 or 6 years, and I can honestly say I don't remember anybody complaining to me, any vendor in the last 4 or 5 years at all, saying that they have not had an opportunity to bid. Every bid involving equipment, specifically for highway department or some of the other departments, I take the bid results to the committee and give them a copy of who the bid was sent to, a list of all the bidders. I give them a copy of all the bids that were received, and we discuss it openly. And if there's anything that's not satisfactory to the committee or to myself or to the department, then we discuss whether or not we need to disqualify them. And that's basically what we do. And every award that's been made to Tracy Road Equipment or equipment has been approved by the Public Works Committee. Sure.
I have a question, and I think I know in what direction Carl Hansen was questioning. Is it a practice of our county to lease a piece of equipment for, say, 6 months and then buy it so that, and I'm not saying for that reason, but when you do that, you don't have to, am I correct, submit a bid once it's been leased? You can purchase it without a bid?
No.
You can't do that. Okay, so there's no...
No, practically, you can lease a piece of equipment or you can rent it, but none of the price that you pay for that will go towards the purchase.
Right, but can you purchase that?
You can then turn around and buy something similar to it, yeah.
Well, okay, so you can't purchase that particular piece of equipment is what you're telling me that you lease. If you went out
Not
east of
without,
Rankin.
not without bidding.
Without a bid. Okay, so it has to go on the tag.
If I had a piece of used equipment, I bought a John Deere and I used it for 6 months. That's used equipment. And naturally, I think it'd be better if I brought that piece of equipment than going out and buying a used piece of equipment that's 6 months old or buying a new piece of equipment. It seemed like we would definitely have to take, it just seems logical that we would take the 6 months, the piece of equipment we've had for 6 months. At least I think we should. I mean, it's state bid.
Not if it's over the state bid limit of $10,000, you have to bid it.
Where are you going to find a piece of equipment used for 6 months? I mean, come on.
No, there are.
Can we then write specs for a used piece of equipment that we already own? That's what I'm saying.
Okay, you can write specs for a used piece of equipment, but not necessarily for what you own.
No, can you write?
You can write specs for a used piece of equipment, yes.
If we had a piece of equipment and we released it, and it was 6 months old and then decided to purchase, could we now write the specs to purchase that equipment?
You write a spec that would be similar to that, there's no guarantee that you get that. There are a lot of companies out there that lease and rent equipment year round. And we have bid used equipment and had many bids on it. Not just.
Legislator answer.
Then, Pat, we do have a rental, we have a rental program, we rent trucks.
We do
Rent equipment.
We do rent some equipment, yes.
Have we ever bought it after we rented it for 6 months or something?
The same equipment?
Yes.
Not to my knowledge.
And
I have checked on that, because other people brought that question up, and I looked back at serial numbers that we rented, and when the actual item we purchased was a different serial number. So it was not the item that we rented. Even though it came from the same company.
what department's responsible for writing the specifications?
Specifications?
Of the say of a truck.
All right, the responsibility lies with the department. And they're sent to me, and then I review them to see if they're possibly generic. Now, I'm not going to tell you that I'm an expert in all heavy equipment, because I'm not.
Well,
it's very difficult when you look at it.
Yes, the Swedish-made truck, what's the name of them? Scania. I was wondering how many other manufacturers have them same specifications, or close, even closer.
I mean, we have bought a Scania in a number of years.
I know.
I don't think they're even made anymore, if I remember correctly.
Legislator Crowley had a question.
I don't think Scania.
I think Mackin.
But they're not being marketed in that way.
Yeah, I was the one that originally brought up the question about the writing of specifications. And in my working years, I had to write specifications. And what I used to do was pickup truck was the biggest thing we ever bought. And we had Dodge, Chevy, Ford, GMC, and I'm missing one. And I'd write the specs based on my knowledge. And again, I'm no expert on a pickup truck. And I would take those specs to each local dealer to make sure that those specs did not write them out of bidding. Make sure that they weren't written out of bidding. And if it was within the parameters of each of those dealers, then we would stick to those specs. An example, Ford for a long time didn't make a short box truck, and that's what we had to have. So I couldn't help it, they didn't make such a thing, but we had to have a short box truck. So they were knocked out and they understood that. Since then, now they make a short box truck. You say you haven't had complaints from anybody in the last 4 or 5 years. And the reason you're not getting complaints is because these people just throw their hands up and they say there's no sense in even trying to bid because the specs write us out. No 2 10-wheelers are the same. They all have individual characteristics and load capacity and so on and so on and so on. My contention is that we are not broad enough where we include everybody to at least be able to submit a bid based on specs that they can live with. That's my contention. I'm not questioning your integrity, your honesty, or anything else. But I've done bidding before, and I'm not ignorant of the fact that you can write specifications any way you want. Now, you're not writing them, somebody else is writing them. And I wouldn't expect you to know everything there is to know about every specific, we'll use a 10-wheeler as an example. I wouldn't expect you to know all those things. And I wouldn't hold you blame for it. You would be very blameless on anything you didn't have a specification broad enough for all dealers to submit a legitimate bid on. And I can look at our highway fleet. We ain't got a Ford or a Chevy or a Dodge or a GMC. There's got to be a reason for it. And don't tell me they don't make big, heavy trucks, because I see contractors with these vehicles, and they seem to be very satisfied with them. Santoro that just did the 481, I think he had Fords.
State DOT has Fords.
That's my contention, and that's my beat.
You're welcome to come down and look at the bids. There are several bidders.
I'm saying that the specifications are narrowed to the point where it doesn't open the door to everybody to give a good, honest bid on a piece of equipment. And nobody's ever going to convince me that they are.
Only thing I'd like to say to this is, it is my job as a department head to set the specs up for a vehicle. And I've talked to Pat about this a lot to make sure, and I think Pat would concur, that we never have it so there isn't more than one will meet the spec. We always have it so more than one will meet it. Is that correct, Pat? Otherwise, we cannot buy it, and I will not put it out for bid. Now, I go to either Ron Wallace as a deputy or Kurt, before it was Bob Shad, depends on what they're looking for in a truck. Bob will tell me that one's going to be plowing snow and it's going to be hauling this or that. It ought to have a 300 horsepower engine, so I set that up. It ought to have this size axle. It ought to have this transmission. We've checked around. Ford can put on that Eaton transmission, the 6-speed with the triple, just like everybody else can. It costs more money, but that's going to last longer. There's a lot of other things to it. The same with the size rear end that you want. We put the size down. They can get it from all different places. Now, there's nothing that I know that Pat's talked before, when we go over some specs, that he said, well, maybe we ought to do this or that or change it so more can bid on it. Am I right, Pat? And then we go through it to make sure. Now, I can't agree with that, so everybody can meet that spec, but maybe Chevy only makes a 10-wheeler with a 180 horsepower engine. And for the things that we're using a lot of them for, it might not work in practicality. But I don't, we've tried the best I can to make the bids open to everybody. I'm sure there's a certain standard they got to meet, but I think that's what we've done. I know the last trucks we bought, we've been, I think, fortunate. We've had excellent luck with auto car trucks over the years, and they've been the low bid on state bid. Is that correct, Pat? The last, I think, 2 bunches we bought, probably 10 trucks we bought right off the state bid that anybody can buy from. And auto car beat everybody on those bid prices. Ford had it at one time, and then auto car beat Ford on those last state bid specs. I'm just saying, and I make sure that somebody more than one, or Pat won't even accept it, if the specs don't meet the standards that more than one person can meet.
But over a period of 5 years, and I have the figures, Pat needs them, over a period of 5 years, one source is the only one that could provide, let's say, 10-wheel dump trucks to the tune of $10,500,000. Nobody else was able to supply us a 10-wheel dump truck that met specifications. I don't believe that.
Well, maybe they didn't bid on it. They did the state bid. I think they were probably bought off the state bid. Plus, there's a lot of the equipment that's probably on that scheme. Now, I get a lot of heat from a lot of places about Tracy Road equipment, but they're probably the largest dealer, I would think, in the Northeast. If we want to buy a chipper, a stump grinder, if we want to bid a paver, a roller, a truck, a tractor trailer, a solid waste compactor, a solid waste recycling piece of machinery, they bid on it. A lot of these people just only sell trucks. And I understand the concern, and I buy stuff wherever I can from Oswego County too, but there's certain things we have to have that they bid on. Am I right, Pat, about every piece of equipment, no matter what we would need, they bid on it, or close to it.
There have been a few that they have not bid on, but it's not very, very often.
They're very active in the bid. I mean, they sell, and you accept a low bid. I don't think this committee once, that I can remember of at the time I got highway superintendent, that has went against your recommendation for low bid. Am I right on that? At least not as I can remember offhand.
There have been some that we've discussed at length.
Yes, but we try to make them as open as possible and still get the job done that we feel we should do with those trucks.
I just want to ask Don a question. I heard him say, Mr. Finn say that, what do you call those trucks, the Scandinavian trucks? Scania. And he said that they're not making Scania trucks anymore, is that correct?
No, they're not being marketed in the U.S.
Well, they're not being marketed.
I remember now, they no longer market them in the U.S.
I just wondered where do you get the parts from now?
We're still able to get some parts, it's getting harder all the time. These trucks now, I think probably the last one we bought was before I was here, maybe probably 88.
It's
Probably
been at least 4 or 5 years since it was.
Probably 300,000 miles on them. So
I
we're at the
remember-
point now where when we do get new ones, we try to trade those in.
Yeah, I remember a few years ago, we was discussing the buying Caterpillars, and I think we, as a legislator, voted to have a standardized machine so we could, have parts for, with the truck.
Didn't we buy some parts from Syracuse? When they did out of the garbage business, we bought a whole bunch of them for less than half, less than a quarter of the price, right?
We purchased about $40,000 worth of parts for Scania vehicles from Onondaga County. This one, Onondaga County started with some of the small and scratch, Pennsylvania, something had a lot of parts. We paid about 25 cents on the dollar, if my memory serves me right. They standardized.
Good deal. Legislator McMahon has a question.
I have a couple of questions. One, not just highway, but everybody. Once you get ready to send out a bid, does somebody review that? Does legal go over it? Does anybody else, or do you just send it out, or does the chairman go over it before you send it out?
Generally, they're not reviewed by anybody. I have had some reviewed by the county attorney on occasion, depending on what it is. It's something I'm questioning, I'm not sure about. But generally, no.
Okay, about the process of bidding, maybe not so much the bid and the spec type thing, that maybe we ought to talk about a little bit. How do you develop the list that you bid with, and how do you keep it updated to make sure that they're actually doing something in the field that you're bidding for? And I reference back to when Legislator Brown had talked about sale of hay, and her son was on the list, is selling hay, and they called somebody in Liverpool or someplace else like this. And I've talked to other legislators on the AC-20 situation that had called some people and found out that, somebody wasn't in the business, or they don't sell it, or how do you, just sending out a bid, when you send out the bids, do you call to check, do you make sure that they're actually in the company, or how is this process developed?
We are receiving requests every day from bidders being asked to be on the bid list. We have them on a computer file. We update them as the requests come in. Sometimes you get a bid for something that you haven't bid in the last 2 or 3 years. When we go to bid something that we may have a bidders list from 2 or 3 years ago, we do review it to see if they're still active companies. Now, do I call them to say they sell product A, B, or C? No, I do not, because they've asked to be on bid before for a similar product. Sometimes they lose a product line, and I'm not aware of that, but we still send it to them. We're talking about the AC-20. The bidders we had on that bid were about 10 or so, if I remember correctly. I think 3 or 4 of those are on state contract. I sent it to all 3 or 4 of them. None of them responded. I don't know why, but they were on the list. And I very often refer to the state contracts to see who the state has awarded something to. I'll also use their contractors, even if I don't have them on my list. We have directories that list all the companies by product types. I'll also screen that and add vendors to the list. We also use the phone book. We are always updating. The girls in the office will tell you that. Sometimes they get upset because we send them too many people. We've had bids we've sent to 30 or 40 people. But I can't go out and make them better.
Most of the questions are answered. We return to the order today. If there's other questions asked, Mr. Finn, that he can be asked directly by any legislator. I think we're extending the time here a little bit.
Resolution then. Thank you. Resolution by James Bryant. The resolution, Legislator Bryant.
Mr. Chairman, item number 5, resolution, and urge its adoption.
Clerk, read the heading, please.
Resolution authorizing budgetary modification, Health Department.
Is there any discussion on this resolution? If not, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Resolution is passed. Next resolution is by Legislator Brown.
Mr. Chairman, I offer the following resolution and urge its adoption.
Ask the clerk to read the heading.
Resolution authorizing budgetary modification, Veteran Service Agency.
Is there any discussion on this resolution? If not, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Resolution is passed. Next resolution is by Legislator Van Schack.
Offer this resolution and urge its adoption.
Ask the clerk to read the heading.
Resolution providing for budgetary modification, Department of Employment and Training.
Is there any discussion on this resolution? Legislator Murray.
I believe that in essence of time, I think the last meeting I requested that maybe our JPP director would be here to discuss how many we have had to put through this rehabilitation of.
And in view of that, for the press, we happen to have Nancy with us, and just briefly, Nancy, because...
Yeah, briefly, we appreciate it, briefly. I better wait till next meeting.
Question is, how many people we put through this?
Since the Worker Assistance Center opened February 7th, we have had 388 people register with the center. 282 are enrolled in some kind of training program. 110 have completed program services, and 104 have obtained employment.
Thank you.
The average wage at placement is $10.35. Cost per entry to employment is $2,900.
Excuse me, what's that?
$2,900.
What was that?
Cost per entered employment.
And are they all from Oswego County?
No. 262 people were served who were from Oswego County. 126 people were from other counties.
And we paid to have them go through the training, that 126 people.
The federal funds that were given were run through this department. That was the agreement that I made with the state, the federal government, and the other counties.
Did we just take a lead on this?
Yeah. Somebody had to take the lead.
Couldn't discriminate against Knapp County residents.
Additional services for additional dislocated workers.
What do you mean by additional services?
Continuing services in terms of classroom training, on-the-job training, relocation assistance, job search training, as well as in-house services such as counseling, job-seeking skills, instruction, use of the resource center.
Could I ask you a question? Do you have a running total of how much funds we have had that we put into this structure?
This particular program...
Everything we got?
Yes. Total expenditures from the time that from February 7th through last June, which is the last cumulative report that I have, are $372,051.
Nancy, are they kind of working here?
Yes. As a matter of fact, 50, let me tell you exactly, let's see. The companies in New York State are Lee Memorial Hospital, Accelerated Auto Repair, Alcan, Allied Signal. We have probably had a dozen people who have moved out of state to places like Ybor City Brewing Company in Florida and the Snapple production plant in Arizona.
Any other questions?
This $400,000, as they were saying, there was no income level for requirement on the use of things.
For the client.
For the client, yes.
That's correct. The eligibility requirements for dislocated worker is that the person has left employment and is unlikely to return to their previous occupation. So the income, while other JTPA programs have an income requirement, the dislocated worker program does not.
Legislator Oswego.
Nancy, this may be premature. The Kenosha Jobs Program.
Yes.
What effect will this JTPA grant have on that jobs program? Will that be absorbed? Will it be thrown out the window?
It's two different target groups. The jobs program is targeted at those people who are on public assistance or money who are looking to apply for public assistance. This particular dislocated worker program is for people who have just recently been dislocated. We know that through the statistics that there is about 3 or 4 months' time after someone, if someone does not have a good severance package, they may end up moving from being a dislocated worker to a disadvantaged individual to a public assistance recipient. Hopefully, what we can do is through this $400,000 keep more people from going to having to use the other program.
I see.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Resolution has been passed. Next resolution is by Legislator Van Schack.
Offer this resolution and urge its adoption.
Clerk will please read the heading.
Resolution authorizing budgetary modification, Personnel Department.
Any discussion on this resolution? Legislator Tate.
It says to do counsel, to do around the, it will be used to assist, I'm sorry, reading the wrong one. You're asking to take $20,635 that is located in different accounts, bring it to one account, and then to provide departmental furniture. How long has these people been working with this? I mean, I guess what I'm saying is I'm on the Veterans Committee, and I've seen some of the furniture there that we worked with for probably since 40 years.
Historically, and Peter's here to add anything to what I have to say. Historically, this building, when all departments moved in and this kind of thing, that certain departments did get the furniture that would enable you, particularly for computers. Now, I'm not talking about this being plush furniture and all this. It's a matter of the whole computers on being fair here. But our employees down that meet with the public are working on regular desks and working with computers. The item was placed in this year's budget request for 1995. The committee said, no, we do not want to make our budget go to that degree. We said, is there some way that can work out? Because what has happened here is that other departments have gotten this furniture, and now all of a sudden the budget crunch that these people are still working with these kinds of desks, which are really not right. Any of you work computers know what I'm talking about. And they seem to be on the low persons on the totem pole in terms of getting it. So the charge was made to Peter to see if he could find money either within the budget or to work out with the administrator's office some way so that these folks could get some relief out of it without adding to next year's budget. And that's what the request is for. Now, Peter, if you please add anything to this that you might think of, because I'm trying to reflect what was said.
I think that's basically it. In fact, scrutinizing my budget from now to the end of the year, the current budget, and coming up with the transfer to the city and the memorandum attached to spend conservatively for the balance of the year, so I'll have this money for a major start in replacing the existing equipment with modern engineered equipment for the service.
When it says partial, what are we looking at? Is this going to take care of half, 25%?
We're looking at a $30,000 project to do the entire department, and I went in with that as a goal, and this is what I found this year. Next year, again, through conservative spending, I'm hoping to come up with a balance and come to you at this time next year with some budget transfers to finish the project. $30,000 would be the basis.
So you're not looking at it in the budget, you're working with it next year.
This is this year's budget.
Yeah, Peter, what would one employee that was out with carpal tunnel syndrome cost you in an accident?
Well, this is the basic thing of the bottom line is we're trying to provide safe equipment that's handled safely. What we have right now is we have an employed clerk and a typist sitting at an old-style desk whose computer is sitting on top of the desk, and they're having to reach up and bend their wrists in order to use the keyboard, as opposed to a design, a computer desk designed ergonomically, where they sit there and they can adjust the height of the computer, adjust the angle of the screen, they can adjust the height of their chair, the tilt of their chair, so that their arms are parallel and all they're moving is their fingers. They're not having an arm up like this and the arm down like this. And this is what Barbara refers to as carpal tunnel syndrome, where repetitive action over a long period of time will irritate the carpal tunnel, the nerve going through the carpal tunnel, and you'll end up with possibly paralysis in the arm and has to be operated on to open up the carpal tunnel. And this is why we have computer designed specific equipment to do this operation. And that's what this project will do. That type of equipment for every one of my employees that work in that area.
But in answer to your request, yes, this is not the full portion, it's 22 out of the 30.
Yeah.
And it's a matter, and I read, of other departments, because I believe in a number of other departments in this building, it was taken care of in other earlier budgets. The personnel waited online, and then you get to the point where it's difficult to add to the budget, because the committee said to Peter we would not accept an increase, and this is the result.
Legislator Turner, I think, had a question.
Do we ever get an
You have a question?
Have an auction to get rid of the old stuff and maybe bring in money so that you could get the rest of your equipment through an auction? Take the old desks and
All the old equipment that was stored in Pat, if he's still here, they have an auction periodically with that stuff. Old cars, anything old.
Old legislators.
Old legislators.
Legislator Turner had a question.
I have a question. I just want to say that I supported this in committee because I can relate to this problem that these people have. I had the same problem. Buy something for me. But I did suggest it, and I agreed with the chairman and the rest of the committee that they try to go back to their various accounts and try to find money in there. And I think it was a good idea. I think we should vote on it.
Resolution.
We gotta waive the rules?
Next resolution is by Legislator Frida Call. She isn't here, so somebody in Social Services. You may have the honor. Legislator Johnson.
I want to defer to a veteran.
Okay. One of you.
Put this down in the archives of the history of this legislature for the first time in 8 years, in 23 months, the Democrats going to offer a resolution and move for its adoption.
Clerk, please read the heading.
On this auspicious occasion, I'd be happy to read the resolution. Resolution authorizing budgetary modification, Department of Social Services, Prevention Services Partnership Program.
Any discussion on this one?
Let's get in trouble.
If not, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Resolution is passed.
Mr. Chairman,
Legislator Benchek.
I would like to ask the indulgence of the legislature to waive the rules for the consideration of one additional resolution that I believe is on your desk. Thank you.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Next resolution is by Legislator Herbert Benchek.
Offer this resolution and urge its adoption.
You notice that?
Clerk, please read the heading.
Resolution appropriating funds from Insurance Reserve Fund in settlement of litigation.
Is there any discussion on the resolution? Not all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Resolution is adopted. Before we, Marjorie has something she'd like to say.
I'm going to bring up something before we go.
All right, so
On Saturday, October 1st at 10:30 a.m., the two buildings at Camp Zerby are going to be dedicated to the memories of Legislator Malone and Legislator Britton. And you'll be getting a notice on this shortly from the Planning Department, but put that date on your calendar.
Once again, Marguerite, what was that?
Saturday at Camp Zerby.
Legislator Frawley.
I'd like to direct this to Legislator Brewer, that I attended a highway meeting and the facts came out that we spent $55,000 for repair of signs. Since that time, I've noticed road signs. And my question, and I'd like to have your committee address it, that some of these signs that are hit by snowplows, maybe you can move them back a little bit so the snowplows aren't going to hit them.
That's first off.
I can answer that one.
Problem is,
Your last one
we're
is illegal.
gonna get sued because they're not in the right spot.
Okay, well, that's what I want to check.
My understanding that all the signs on county highways are connected and are in the right spot according to the regulations. And if you take them out of the right spot, then you're leaving yourself open to litigation.
What's happened, Ed, is if you move the sign one way or the other, when you have an accident, they measure the sign, and if it's 3 inches one way or the other, we're sued.
Okay.
And if it's 3 inches one way or the other, we're sued.
Superintendent Maury.
One other item.
Okay.
I will be missing the October meeting. The first time in 19 years I missed a meeting.
Oh, my God.
And you guys will have a free run while I'm gone. I'm taking my bride to South Bend, Indiana, where the real dome is. And I'm going to take a picture of it so you can see what the real golden dome is.
Superintendent Maury would like to address. We're not adjourned yet.
I was asked during this meeting some questions about the park and also DEC, so I put some stuff together. Blake handed these all out. The first one was a letter that was addressed from DEC to Art when this whole thing started. We got a copy of that. Some of our responses from ourselves, Art, B&L, to EPA and DEC. The next page has got the asphalt that we have purchased since we went out of business on the 11th of August. We bought 1,500 tons of top, a couple of binder bids of 80, 30 tons. The only part we did of any service at all was to finish up that road on 23. On the same thing that Jim asked about on the next page was from Pat Finn, where the cost to haul from Amboy Center, how far each place was from the project we're working up there. For example, on that one, if you've got it yet, from Barrett, Janesville was 42 miles, to northern Boundary was 37 miles from that project. The price from Barrett, if we picked it up there, was 23, 27, 25.79 at northern. The total price is on the right after Pat put in the county trucks and mileage, and that's per ton that was added in.
John?
Yes.
If you have somebody break down the mileage charge, the county trucks, so we know exactly what they're drawing that down.
It's right there. That's what those numbers are, Jim. 345.
Yeah, where they get the 345?
That's a state chart, Pat's got. I don't know. I don't have that chart.
State rates.
State rates.
1,500 tons, they couldn't charge anything on
Yes.
that.
Right. They couldn't do it. It's true.
Legislator Buck?
Okay, the last.
Oh, I'm sorry, you're not through yet.
The last page, if you look at it, is the airport recreational facility. Cost today for labor.
Come on.
We'd already have that labor anyway. The guys are going to be working somewhere, so you understand that. The equipment is what we would charge if we charge it out. Of course, we own our own equipment, so it depends on how you want to figure the cost. You could do that for any project we do, be it Camp Derby or Camp Hollis, buildings and grounds, the public safety center where we paid that. I really don't know working, but it was $10,000 for materials, and that's not only for the track you talked about, but for the whole park because it's now set. If there's any questions, I'd be glad to.
I got one right now. In the section last page, you got the county trucks and mileage is $3.45 per roam. I don't see any column there that includes the man hours.
That's figured in.
That's figured in that?
It's supposed to be into that. See, these are figures that Pat has. Like I said before, there's nothing we can do about it. We call to get a purchase order to buy blacktop. Usually, for the last 50 years, we've had our own blacktop. So this is new to us too. So we said this is the way we had to do it. So we call a purchasing agent, say, okay, we're up on County Route 23. He gets the map and looks, and he figures the mileage to each facility. And he has a state chart that's so much, what the increments are per mile, for trucking, mileage, all that figured in at $3.45 a ton or $4.65, depends on the mileage. The average cost, like if we hired somebody to just bring stone from Janesville out to us, it's $3 a ton. So they just figure that in per mile, and that's all figured into that price.
How does he know how much our employees are paid?
I don't know. I don't think he goes on it.
That's what I'm asking. Where's the man hours figured in?
Well,
It's in.
I'm just saying, what we have to go by is we have to go to the purchasing department to buy the blacktop.
For mileage, I understand that.
Well, the whole thing, if we're doing a road up on 23 like we were doing, we said we're going to need about 1,500 tons of blacktop. Pat goes and he gets back to us a day later and he said, I figured up everything. I will cut you a purchase order. You have got to buy that from Janesville at Barrett. That's the cheapest price, including mileage. Now, exactly where he comes up with those figures, I don't have time to go out and check with That's the only place he'd give a purchase order for, so that's where we buy it.
I understand the mileage and everything you have there, but Mike, what question was, where's the man hours figured in? This guy's making $10 an hour.
It's in that mileage. It's in that mileage. When we hire trucks to bring stone from Janesville up the plant, it's $3 a ton or so. The driver and everything is figured in that
Yeah,
price.
but the point is, where's the figure on the county cost? Okay, this may be a state guide. Where's the county cost of man hours, okay, per mile, and the benefits paid per mile, and the other figures that should be figured in this? Now, the state may say, okay, it's gonna cost $3, or somebody may say it costs this, but this figure of county trucks and mileage and man hours that's supposed to be into this, we need to know exactly what it's costing. It may cost the county more because the county's trucking it. It's not somebody else trucking it in.
Understood. I'm just telling you the way we did it. We needed to purchase blacktop, and we got a purchase order to do it.
When I talked to Pat Finn, Randy, and I asked him how the mileage was figured, the state gives you an amount when you go by increments of how far it is. They figure in what they figure your manpower and everything is, and they give you a per mile figure. So they don't break it up. Now, I think what Jim's saying is, do we have a figure of what it would cost us? Maybe, but I guess we're governed by according to Pat, we're governed by the state to go by that mileage chart. So much per mile.
Hopefully we'll be back in this week, so we won't have to worry about this.
If the state's gonna set the rates, let the state truck it in
I
and look for that
understand.
cost, because, okay, or let somebody else truck it in for that cost, because we're doing it, we should know our actual cost.
Well, wait a minute now.
That is different.
The last minute there, we're gonna go to state. State's got the best thing going in trucks. We wanted to go that route. Now we don't want to go to state. I mean, we gotta get together on that.
I'm making the other point.
Yeah, I know it's getting late and I don't want to go. I want to ask one question. You don't have to answer it right now, but it's something for everybody to think about. Is it possible in the beginning of the season, I understand that if each job you're going on and you run the bids for, is it possible in the beginning of the season to put up bids throughout the county and maybe even to hit the edge of the other counties, and you got your bids for the season rather than each particular job you're doing? You might get better bids if they know they're going to be selling a lot of blacktop.
Something we haven't done before, because we've got our own plant, number one, and number two, I'd have to check with Pat on that, because see, the asphalt price, that can change from day to day.
I talked to a couple of suppliers and they said it doesn't change so much that they probably wouldn't change, affect their bid.
Well, that could be right.
They
So I don't
lock in a bid pretty
we haven't had
much.
to deal with that before, so I don't know. I could certainly check with Pat on it.
Diane,
Legislator Chesbro.
I've heard, we spent $10 million the last 5 years. I'd like to make a request for an inventory of the highway department as far as, how many trucks you have, and
I would think the 10 million came from all the solid waste and everything. I don't know how much my machinery was.
No, total from Tracy's. Total from
That's from solid waste, earth, and everything.
He's got that.
Okay.
That list is there. That's a list.
Any other discussion?
Will we adjourn?
Motion has been made to adjourn. Is there a second? Oh, okay, wait a minute, Bill. I thought you said you didn't want
It's
to.
just an announcement that triggered my thought. I just want to so you know, put that in the calendar. Camp Zerby. As you all know, part of the dream was to open that up so it would be used more throughout the county. On the weekend of the 14th, 15th, and 16th, I'll be getting letters out to you. Our scout troop, from Mount Pleasant, has camped there a couple of times. It really went Berserko's place, a terrific place to camp. We had received approval having council wives, entire Oswego County Council of Boy Scouts, camping out at Camp Zerby on that weekend. And all the legislators, of course, will be invited to campfire generally on Saturday night. Just so you know, and tentatively blocked into your calendar, I'll make sure we get letters out to you so you know where and when, and the details of the campfires, okay?
All in favor of adjourning?
In the interest of open government, we are proud to present tonight's broadcast of this month's Oswego County Legislative Meeting, brought to you in part by Northern, the family of companies, meeting your needs from asphalt to concrete in Oswego and all of Central New York. This month's production of the Oswego County Legislative Meeting is pleased to welcome, during their grand opening, your new Volney Fulton PNC and Kmart, located in the River Glen Square Mall. Filming of this production by Saved Video, Terry Reynolds, proprietor, Diane Martell Rafferty, second camera assistant. And audio announcement. The following are personal sponsors of this legislative meeting. County legislators Shirley Tabor, Barbara Brown, Clayton Brewer, Bill Buck, Jim McMahon. Other sponsors are Sandy Weston, Thelma Terramino, Larry Raleigh, Cindy Gagne, and Claudia Smart.
Has no responsibility for the content or opinions expressed therein.